Right, we are live. Yes, hello, welcome everyone to the season 14 spectacular, because today we're talking all things season 14 related, from the actual episodes and of course the special features, and I guess we'll do a bit of speculation on the next Blu-ray release. But I'm not doing it alone. I am joined by some lovely people. I'm joined by Adam the Ultimate Whovian.
Hello everybody.
Good day. And I'm joined by TARDIS Guy 123.
Hello
Good old
everyone.
Luke. So yeah, how are you? Let's start a bit informal. What have you been doing recently? So Adam.
There's been a fair few things going on. Season 14 being one of them. Enjoying a lot of that. Probably like the Blu-ray box that I've watched like the most content out of, as well as the tweet-alongs. I've been getting involved with a few of them, and they've been fun. Whether it's like jumping on a Zoom call to watch it, or just doing it on your own. There's some really cool tweet-along stuff going on. Doctor Who magazines keep me entertained. Like, it was the first time I've taken out a subscription because I thought I'd make the most of it in the current situation that we're in. And
I mean, that was worth it. That issue, that season 14 issue. Definitely
the
worth.
Doctor Who magazine for that was
definitely
amazing.
worth it. Definitely worth it.
Yeah.
Celebration, wasn't it?
What was that, Luke?
That was like a retro 70s, 77 celebration, wasn't it, that one?
Oh yeah, because you had like the Magnus Grill poster, you had the console printout, all manner of stuff. It was worth it just for that, really.
Yeah, I got like the Pyramids Tom figure, like just stood it, like taking pictures of that, and it just felt like I feel like the happiest like child, just putting it all together and everything, just loving it. Yeah, as well as like uni and all that kind of stuff. I've been keeping a fair bit productive. Yeah.
Oh, that's good.
I think we need B&M to get on the secondary console now, because that looks beautiful on the Blu-ray menu. It does look beautiful.
I see that Eagle Moss have done their own version of that console too.
Oh, they have, yeah. I mean, they're doing quite a few of the consoles now, aren't they, really?
Mm.
They've done the 60s one, they've done the 80s one, and they're doing the Capaldi one next, I think.
Yeah, and I think the secondary one, from what I heard, is like coming out July, I think.
I think so. I mean, I don't really get them because I've got to cherry pick what I get now.
Yeah.
So Luke, what have you been up to? What have you been
much,
occupying yourself?
Yeah, stressing out over season 14 delivery, because now
I was going to talk about that. I was going to mention that.
I'm
going to say that for a minute. No, it's fine. It's fine.
Yeah, that is one of the things like on the build up, and then watching season 14 as well, season 12 too. That's another one, and then I think a lot of classic Who has been keeping me occupied, just picking through different stories to watch. Currently on the Space Museum, which I talked about earlier.
Underrated gem, yeah.
Yeah, that's true. And then I think going out into the outside world safely a bit, like going for walks where I can, things like that. I think I'm lucky to live in a bit more of a suburban area and not in the heart of a city where I think it's a lot more of a struggle for people, sadly. But yeah, that's been nice as well, keep me occupied and just waiting for this all to blow over, hopefully.
I mean, it's good that we're all well, and I hope that everyone watching is all doing dandy, really. For me, I've just been listening to a bit of Big Finish, as you do, because the release haven't stopped. We've had the lockdown Fourth Doctor story, Shadow of the Sun, I think it is.
Yeah, that was done really well.
I suppose we could quickly talk about that, because I think we've all listened to that.
Yeah.
So who wants to start talking about that first?
I'll hand it over to Luke first.
Go on, Luke.
Yeah, it's quite a appropriate release for this time, and I remember on the behind the scenes, Tom Baker talked about it a bit. It's the whole story is about what's it called? People believing in something even when it's not reality, really. And sadly, a lot of people now have sort of like been partying things, sort of have that thought in the back there. Well, not so much now, but when this whole pandemic started, thinking like, oh, it won't affect me, I'll be fine. But unfortunately, it is something that does affect all of us, really. So yeah, that sort of plays in quite topically with the release, even though it wasn't written for that purpose. But I think it is quite a nice piece about how opinion can be taken as fact, really, and it does have quite a horrific end in some ways.
Oh, the ending's really grim.
Yeah,
The ending's pretty dark.
I didn't think an audio could like hit me that hard in terms of something being horrific. At least
it's in
not a,
keeping
like
with...
a PG, I guess, audio, or like a Doctor Who audio. Obviously, Torchwood and some of their other ranges do go in a bit more, but with their Doctor Who at the moment, they try to keep it fairly true to the TV series. But yeah, it was true to the TV series, but it was still not what I was expecting.
Yeah, it starts off quite jolly with, Leela, K9 and the Doctor just wandering around at this like fancy party, teaching Leela the art of mingling. And then after that it goes...
Autopilot.
Oh, the campy autopilot, what just fits Doctor Who brilliantly.
Yeah.
Just rather brilliantly. What about you, Adam?
Yeah, I very much enjoyed it, and it sort of did remind me, in a similar vein, to Voyage of the Damned, this kind of space cruise liner, and things are going awry behind the scenes. I just thought it was very solid, and I think it's great that Big Finish are being able to still produce Doctor Who audios in the current state the current climate that we're in, and it's just. I've always just enjoyed seeing Tom wave that picture where he waved everyone on Zoom. Like that just, and all this behind the scenes stuff filled my heart with joy. And I feel like this is obviously this could be the start of more audios to come. Like I saw like pictures of Peter Davison doing something.
In his cupboard, that was quite.
So funny. Maybe we're getting one per. Maybe like there's going to be like maybe we're going to get one per Doctor. Maybe like in the next few months or so, perhaps. So it's a very, very solid, very unpredictable, enjoyable, story. And obviously, like now, so earlier this year we had the E-Space Trilogy people, that TARDIS crew. So for a moment, when I saw this announced, I almost thought, because I haven't caught up myself with the Fourth Doctor Adventures just yet, that I was worried that will it slightly be alienating if they sort of reference and do sort of incorporate it more into sort of the adventures that he has on Big Finish. But no, it's great for newcomers as well. So if you guys watching are new or fairly new, but all like haven't caught up with it, that it's still like a great jumping on point. And Robert Valentine, I've not heard of the writer chap before, like before this audio. Maybe he's written a few stories before, but this is the first I've heard of him, and yeah, he's a very good writer, and I think I hear he's writing more stuff. So yeah, I'd like to see more from him in particular. Yeah,
this has sort of like been his debut month, because he also wrote a story in the Paternoster Gang box set, and now he's also writing next month's main range story as well. The what's it called? The
Lovecraft Invasion.
Yeah, so he's just come in, and we've got 3 from him in the space of 2 months. So they've
announced they've announced quite a few of his stories recently, with like the Eric Roberts box set, all that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So we've got that to look forward to, and I think he's doing the Wall Master as well. I think he's doing that as well.
He did very well for himself.
He's definitely making a name for himself over the past week. Well, 2 weeks actually. It's been out 2 weeks out, Shadow of the Sun. But I definitely agree that it is like Voyage of the Damned. Definitely agree, because it has that sort of disaster movie feel to it.
I feel it also helps that it is a special release on its own. Like that was a Christmas special, this is a lockdown special. And I feel
because it was part of series 13, wasn't it? It was meant to be part of that set of audios.
Yeah.
Oh, I see.
Presumably it would have been like one of their 2 stories in one, like their double bill ones, because that seems to be what they're doing now.
It does seem that way, doesn't it? What they're doing with their stories, because I guess they're making it a bit more accessible for people. Hello, Derek. How are we? So I guess we'll move back onto the actual main topic of season 14. This has been the new season 12. It's been a bit of a pain in the bum to get. For quite a lot of us, there's been a lot of uproar. There's been a lot of scandal on Twitter, as ever, because Twitter seems to be the place where a lot of arguments and discussion happens. I know that, Adam, you've had a bit of trouble getting season 14. So do you want to tell your story of your pain?
Oh yes. Do you know it was weird because I thought maybe could I do a video on here, but then I thought, you know what, it's great. I got a platform, so I ordered it actually originally from a website called Simply Home Entertainment because I almost very late into the pre-order game, but I think that they seem to be sort of fairly unresponsive. I wasn't really getting anywhere, but then I found out that Zoom literally just put up like orders for season 14. So right, I'm going to cancel with my original place, go for Zoom. But Zoom cancelled on me 2 days afterwards, which was a bit of a pain. But they gave me a £10 voucher, so all's good in the hood. And then I found out that WH Smith were selling them as well. I thought, okay, I'll go to them. Ordered it with them, and the order got cancelled a couple of hours later. So that wasn't much better than what I had with Zoom. But thankfully, Argos came to the rescue in the end, because Argos, what I found they do is that they put the product up on the release day. So they don't put it up like as soon as it's available, like when they put the trailer up and they say, oh, it's available to pre-order. Like they put it up when the box gets released. And I've had no luck at because I woke up, saw the link in the chat, went through it, and there wasn't any luck. But I tried a couple of times later in the day, and I did manage to get it over to my store, pick it up, and then bring it straight back. And so bless you, Argos.
I mean, it's just a difficult time to get. I guess they printed so many, and then lockdown happened, and I think that's where the problem is. So I feel like there has to be a reprint, or at least finish the quota, because I don't feel like they've done the full quota. And I'd love to know the numbers of these box sets, like how limited are these, because you don't really want to miss out on them, because the amount of stuff what goes on, like the special features, that they're just real. They're a passion project, really. And it just scares the life of me if I miss one, really.
You want to get more. You want a complete collection.
They are Pringles. Once you pop, you just can't stop. You've got to get them now. And I'm glad that
we have that nagging season 14 hole in the collection. I know I had the nagging season 12 hole until they finally did the re-release. So fingers crossed that for those who don't have it, they do re-release season 14, because a lot of people were messed over by Amazon, different companies, and just
I mean, I think that is the problem with the way Doctor Who merchandise going, that scalpers are getting more and more into it. With B&M, the Big Finish vinyls. It's just getting a bit ridiculous now with all manner of stuff going on.
When you see this product going for near £1,000 on eBay before it's even actually been released, that's when you know you've got a problem.
It is ridiculous, really. For me, I think I pre-ordered it literally the day it was announced, and I feel like even that's not a guarantee to get the box set. I feel like there is no set way of getting these box sets. You've just got to hope for the best that your order gets dispatched, because I ordered from Zoom, and as soon as I saw people like orders get cancelled, I was on tender hooks. I was scared, because it's a season I didn't want to miss out on, because it's one of my favorites. And I think the special features on there, like the Elizabeth Sladen documentary, which I guess we'll talk about later, it's just one you don't really want to miss. So I guess we're actually on to the main topic now, season 14 itself. Arguably Tom Baker's last great solid season, I think. Can we all agree on that? Was that too a bold statement? Because I feel after season. Oh, go on.
No, I was just going to say I don't necessarily think so, but what I find with sort of later seasons is like whether you're not you're on the fence with a season or not, there's still I think I still find there's a couple of gems in like a later season. So say like 17 you have like City of Death and Sharda, and then like 15 you have like Horror Fang Rock, and I really like Image of the Fendal. So so I'd say last great consistent season in my view, probably. Yes.
Yeah, I feel like this is sort of the last great solid run of Tom, and then after that, it's kind of pick your favourites.
Yes.
Fourth Doctor era. How about you, Luke? Where do you stand? Is this the last sort of golden stand for Tom?
Yeah, I feel like it is, because like even when you reach the low point of this series, it's still very high. Whereas I feel like with other series, even though you have gems like Horror of Fang Rock, you also have the Underworlds and the Invasions of Time in that same series. So yeah, it certainly is a very strong run. But I'd say obviously there are a lot of good Tom stories after this. But I think after this is also where a lot of the bad ones come in.
I think this is. I feel like after season, I guess season 14 does have it in the sense that you can tell when Tom's not really invested, especially when Louise comes into the latter half of the series. You can tell when Tom's not really enjoying Louise's company, and I feel like now I know that Tom wasn't a fan of Louise. It kind of makes it a bit present when you're actually watching it. Not that it detracts from the experience.
Robots,
yeah, they
I
don't.
feel there's a lot. Like there's that one scene where Tom just goes, "Do you have to talk so much to her?" And it's
it's quite
so
snappy.
bitter. Yeah, like she's not even saying anything. It doesn't even feel funny. It just feels cold and just out of place.
You feel like that should be on the State of Decay, not Robots of Death.
Yeah,
But yeah. So we've got a bit of love for season 15, which is good. I feel like that's probably my least favorite Tom season actually. 17 I really like. 18 I've got no appreciation for because of the Blu-ray set. So I did enjoy that. So should we start with our opening thoughts of season 14? So what do we think of season 14 as a season before we go into actual stories? So Adam.
Right, yes, season 14. So at the beginning, of course, we have the Doctor still traveling with Sarah Jane Smith, and then we start with the pseudo historical Massacre Mandragora, which I quite like. It's quite a fun, I guess I say pseudo historical, which is sort of 15th century Italy Renaissance era mix of astrology, and I quite enjoy the story as a whole. I don't think there's necessarily a lull in it, but for some it might be the weaker point, the weaker start. But I don't necessarily think so. It's still enjoyable. It keeps up a good pace. I quite like Giuliano's uncle. I know there's a lot of scenes where he does shout and does kind of camp up a bit, but I still think that gives
count.
I still feel like yes, he's camp, but then he strikes a astoundingly good balance.
But that's Doctor Who. Doctor Who is camp. If you think Doctor Who's a serious program, then you've got the wrong idea because Doctor Who is just incredibly camp, and I feel like you've just got to accept it.
Even at its most serious times, you'll have a bit of camp in there just to lighten it, really make it entertaining.
I mean, you definitely need the lighter moments in this season. I definitely.
Yeah, that's true.
I definitely feel this is the lightest story, like tonally, and it's definitely come at a point where it's peak Doctor and Sarah, like just coming springboarding off of season 13. Because with season 13, at the beginning, obviously Harry left, and then we started to see more of the Tom Liz dynamic, which is a beautiful dynamic. My favorite ever dynamic on the show. Obviously it's a very favorable one with the fans, but for me, you could tell that the two adore each other and that the chemistry is still there, like from start to finish. Like it's a very evident on screen, and Massacre Mandragora is another example of that. Yeah, I just enjoy the cultish aspect is quite creepy. I quite like Hieronymus's beard is majestical. Love that.
And such a good voice as well. Good voice.
Definitely.
Good villain. I mean, there's quite a few good, rich voice, like Andor from The Face of Evil. Brilliant voice. Brilliant, rich, deep voice. Definitely can tell why he's like a leader of a tribe. Really.
Good casting there.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
So, Luke, what are your sort of thoughts on the Massacre Mandragora?
I think it is one I really enjoy.
I think it's a bit of a guilty pleasure for me.
Yeah,
Same.
I don't even think it's. Has it got that bad of a reputation even?
I think when you put it in the grand schemes of season 14, it's probably the one what stands out as the weakest, or is it the weakest? You'll find out when we rate it.
Thoughts to say on that in a bit, but we'll save that for another story. Yeah, I feel like the location is really where it shines. And I think getting to see that on Blu-ray as well really does help too.
I think that's the strong point about this Blu-ray is the location work. Like, I feel like that's the real treat when you watch these Blu-ray sets to see how well they've been restored, because they look brilliant on DVD, but when you see them on Blu-ray, it's like experiencing them for the first time again.
Yes. And it was filmed in Port Merion, I believe, in Wales somewhere.
Yeah. Yeah, and I feel another thing that helps is because you've got that anticipation of getting this release, getting it in hand. It's a new disc, it's a new menu. I feel that helps to make it like a fresh experience too.
Definitely, I can agree with that. For me, Mask of Mandragora is a bit of an odd one. I think it's a bit of an odd one because tonally, it doesn't fit Tom's era. It doesn't feel like a product of Hinchcliffe's era. It feels more akin to what you'd see in the Hartnell, Troughton historical time. I feel like there are so many, if you just switched on and you were on the sort of historical bit, you'd think that this is a BBC period drama or like a Shakespeare adaptation, especially when you've got like the Count and his like bodyguard sort of plotting the downfall of Count Giuliano.
Like two subplots, haven't you? You've got like two separate villain plots. You've got the Count's plot, which is very much pure historical, and then you've got Hieronymus and the Mandragora Helix's plot, which is going off to the side of that, takes over part 4. That's very sci-fi. But yeah, I can see what you mean. And I think the writer, Louis Marks, was a First Doctor writer, wasn't he?
I think he did Day of the Daleks as well, which is another one of my favourites. It's another one of my favourites, actually.
Some First Doctor story as well.
Did he? I feel like did he do Planet of Giants?
Yeah,
Something's making me go Planet of Giants for him.
That's one.
I could be wrong there. But I feel like season 14 as well is a bit experimental. I feel like Mask of Mandragora is experimental in the form of that it doesn't rely on a person in a rubber suit. It relies on technical. And I feel like Philip Hinchcliffe, and I feel like for the most part, the Mandragora Helix is successful, especially when it's going across the pond. It's got some great gruesome moments when it kills the villager and it's got sort of blue goo on his face. It's, being all charred and brilliant. I feel like the setting as well. The setting is brilliant because, you've got the astrology side to it, but then you've kind of got the dawn of the new scientific age. You've got Count Giuliano going, I believe the world, is, round, it's not flat. So it's kind of sort of the cusp of sort of the dark age and sort of the scientific age. It's kind of merging those. And I feel like putting this sort of astrology side with the Mandragora Helix and having all that side, it's a really, really good idea, actually. I really do like that. The location works brilliant, as we said, and I feel like Tom gets some great action moments within it. I just think it's a rather good story. I think it's a really good little story, actually. And I feel like it just rattles on. I feel like the start with the new TARDIS console. What do we think of the secondary console? I feel like we've got to talk about that. So
I love it.
Oh, go on, Adam.
Oh, sorry. I'm so
No, it's
sorry.
all right. No, you're just spreading the love. I love it. I've got to talk about it. I've got to talk about this beautiful art of the console.
I love it. I will defend. I don't know. It's weird because I feel like I don't think anyone really hates it, but I think compared to other TARDISes, apparently maybe this one falls short. But for me, it's described as kind of the gentleman's club kind of TARDIS console room. There's like the shaving mirror, and there's all these different drawers. I kind of just like this is kind of like the gentleman's kind of TARDIS. Maybe obviously I know you're a big Pertwee fan, but I've kind of thought it might suit his Doctor just as well. Like,
I mean, his jacket is there. His jacket is there. The Free Doctor's jacket is in the TARDIS.
Yeah.
That is true. And then obviously Troughton's recorder was there as well that Sarah played at the beginning. It feels very lived in, very homely. Dare I say it's sort of creeping up to be my favorite. I know it's very small in the grand scheme of things, and literally it looks like it's on wheels. I think like the console itself, I think, does have like those wheels in the background. So I appreciate it. And it's the first time you sort of have the scanner on the wall that obviously you sort of had the little sort of TV monitor scanner, but then like the inbuilt scanner, I think that was like the beginning of that, and then obviously that became a staple in the later classic console rooms. I love that sort of the church kind of church, the
Stained glass,
roundels,
yeah, the stained glass window, yeah. That's a really nice window.
Love
Yeah.
that.
Nice
Yeah, I adore it.
I think it's one of the
Luke.
few times there's like an attempt to do something really different. Like you have different console designs throughout the years before this, just like minor changes, but you could tell it's more like when an old set's gone a bit funny, so they need to quickly like build a new one to replace it. It's not like they've really put thought into designing a new console room like they do in New Who, where they really go all out and make it like a fresh console room. This feels like the first time we get something like that in Classic Who. And so I think there's something there that feels quite fresh. And then sadly we go back to the previous one, don't we, after this season? Because sadly the panels warped in storage. And I think it's a shame that we don't get to see more of it. But at the same time, I'm not sure how it would have fit in when you go into the Graham Williams era. I feel like the old console fits better for that. This very much feels right for the tone of the Philip Hinchcliffe era. It's sort of like a gothic horror TARDIS. And then
it kind of has that Victoriana feel to it, doesn't it? That sort of gothic Victoriana feel, I guess. Yeah.
And
I suppose looking back, like the old console room in the Philip Hinchcliffe era wasn't used a great deal anyway.
Yeah, that's true.
It's not in season 12 at all, is it? It's season 13 when it gets properly in like Planet of Evil, is it? First time?
And then also Pyramids of Mars, it's used, and then that's it, I think.
Yeah, and in this season, like we get Mask of Mandragora and what? Well, actually, it's every story in the season up until
Talons.
Or no, I don't. It's not in Face of Evil.
Oh yeah, it's not in Face of Evil. No, it's not.
So Leda is only in this TARDIS for one of her stories.
Mind is blown.
She's only in it right at the start, like for that what's it called, box inside a box scene.
Which is just iconic. Scene, really.
We're getting ahead of ourselves a bit there.
We're skipping ahead. So should we round up the Mask of Mandragora? So what's our rating out of 10, Luke?
I'm going to go 8 for this one. I feel it's got its flaws, but I really do enjoy it. I think it's one of those ones I could just stick. It's Sunday afternoon viewing, I would say. That's how I describe Mask of Mandragora.
I think it's one of those stories you've got to be in the mood for. It's not one where it's not when you go to the Tom shelf. Oh, I fancy the Mask of Mandragora. I feel like you've got to properly be in the mood to watch that story for you to enjoy it. It's definitely a slow burner. I feel like you've got to know what you're in for when you're watching it. It takes its time. It's very methodical from like point A to point B. So Adam, what do you rate the Mask of Mandragora?
Snap. Yeah, I give it 8 swords out of 10.
Oh, I'm gonna snap you both and go for 8 out of 10 as well.
Or 8 salami sandwiches out of 10.
I wouldn't even say no to a salami sandwich. So that's 8 out of 10 for Mass. Oh, go on.
You were sort of like saying about how it does have that more 60s feel. I think maybe that's why I like it that little bit more, because I am quite into like the lower 60s historicals. So I think that does help with my enjoyment of this one too. Even if
I think it was the reason why Elizabeth Sladen stayed on for that for those 2 stories, because she wanted to do historical. I feel like that's how Hinchcliffe persuaded her. I think I might be making that up.
Yeah,
but speaking of Sarah Jane,
sorry.
Oh, go on. No.
General point. I was reading the booklet for this story, and they said about how this is one of Tom's 4 historicals. He only had 4, and I thought, sure, that can't be right. Tom feels like a Doctor Who fits very well in the historicals. I thought over his 7 seasons, surely he has more than 4, but no, it is only Pyramids, Mask, Talons, so 2 in one series, and then Horror of Fang Rock immediately after. And the only other one that kind of fits in is City of Death, because that does have a bit in the past, but for the most part, that's all present day.
I mean, you could all say they're in the past now, really.
Oh yeah, true.
So they're all historical. Well, bar the futuristic ones. That's still the future. But let's go on to The Hand of Fear. This story for me it's one of those stories for me we all have a story where we want to love it, but we just can't love it. And I feel like The Hand of Fear for me was one of those stories until I got the actual box set and I started watching it. And this was the first time I've actually properly watched it, all of it in one go, really. I've never been able to finish it. Obviously, I've seen The Goodbye and all that kind of thing, but I've never properly gone part 1 to 4. I just kind of stopped halfway through because it just never hooked me, which is surprising because I like Bob Baker and Dave Martin's stories. I love The Three Doctors. I love The Cause of Axos. And I feel like this being Sarah Jane's last story, I wanted to love it. And I feel like I loved it because of Tom and Liz. I feel like this is a real good sort of interaction. There's a lovely moment with, I think it's part 3 when they're like, oh, we'll both be careful. Like, that's a really lovely moment between those two. I think that's really great.
Right.
So Luke, what do you think of The Hand of Fear?
So, are you asking me or Adam?
Yeah. Luke, what do you think of The Hand of Fear?
Yeah, I sort of spoke over you a bit there. I was saying about it was I worry about you too. It was like that very sweet moment between them that I never really picked up on before this viewing. But I think part of what helped was they released that trailer beforehand, and it sort of highlighted that touching scene a bit more. And then watching it in the episode, just in the flow of it, I think there's something really touching about that. It's kind of,
definitely.
Watching them in order, it was the first time I noticed properly that in her last 2 stories, Sarah Jane ends up getting hypnotized or like taken over. But it's not that much of Hand of Fear. Like, she does very much take the spotlight during parts 3 and 4. And it's a story that I've never really got along with either. I've always seen it as the weakest of season 14, and still do, but not by quite as big a margin now. I enjoy it quite a bit more. I find it much more touching, the scenes between Tom and Liz. Like, always the ending has got me, but now, like, even more seeing those little moments building up to it. It's just wonderful that these are just 2 best friends traveling in time and space together. And so Tom says when Sarah's buried under all that rubbish, he's just like, my friend's under all that. It's like all these little moments that really are quite touching and build up as things go on.
And then we've got the Gallifrey Island thing as well, timeless children thing there. Yeah. I guess there's quite a few things we'll link about timeless children in this, actually, because you've got the high amount of Artron energy in Deadly Assassin, then you've got the island thing. I guess this kind of links into timeless children. Or is that just me looking into it a bit too much? I don't know.
Yeah, that's fair. Well, I think season 14, to be fair, does introduce a fair few iconic things, doesn't it? Like the Matrix and all that stuff.
Yeah, but we're skipping ahead again. We're skipping ahead.
Yeah.
Adam, Hand of Fear.
Eldrad's
sorry, Luke. Sorry.
Sorry. Yeah, Eldrad's female form is wonderful as well. I think that works really
Brilliant
well.
Costume. Brilliant costume.
Once Stephen Thorne comes out, and no disrespect to him, because he does wonderful job with Omega and Azal. Something about it in this story, we were saying earlier about how Doctor Who is camp, but when you go from this really wonderful performance of the female Eldrad to the male Eldrad, where it's very much laughing his head off, maniacal villain, there's that weird thing where he says, as soon as he comes out, he's like, oh, I have an audience with my king, ha ha ha, and then just waddles off screen, and the Doctor and Sarah's like, what have we done? There's something about that just, it's tonal whiplash with the rest of the story. I don't... and then it's also just awkward because it feels like the story rattles along at a good pace, but doesn't quite know where it wants to end up and doesn't know where it wants to land, because that whole reveal of, oh, Eldrad's actually bad doesn't quite work, because you already know he or she's going to turn out to be bad, sadly. So I think it just doesn't have the impact that I think they were going for, and so part 4 just doesn't stick the landing, but it's made up for by that wonderful scene at the end afterwards. And actually, they have the story's over, like Eldrad's defeated, and then we still have about 5 or 6 minutes left, don't we, of the Doctor and Sarah for their goodbye, which is nice. I'm glad they got that rather than quite a lot of other Classic Who stories. Like even just the next series with Invasion of Time, Leela's just like, oh, goodbye at the end, I'm staying, and things like that. I think this is probably the most, not drawn out in a bad way, but like the goodbye that has the most emphasis put on it in the whole of Classic Who, probably.
I don't know. I feel like the Green Death's still my favourite departure from the classic series. I feel like there's a lot of power in just the silence of that scene, of that moment, of those two characters saying goodbye, but they don't really say goodbye. I think that's what makes it powerful. But there is a sense of leaving and goodbye, but it's kind of said in a look, and I think that's what I love about the Green Death compared to the Hand of Fear. Like the Hand of Fear is great. Like don't get me wrong, it's probably the second best departure for a companion, because Tom and Liz made that. They made they made the scene itself, and I guess that's why it's so powerful, because it's coming deep from within them, because they're two deep friends, on screen and off screen, and I feel like it really shows in that goodbye scene.
Yeah, that's true. And I think also, like, the goodbye scene itself, you have that line where Sarah says travel does through your mind, and that's like mentioned earlier on in the story. And just watching the goodbye scene on its own in a clip on YouTube, you don't quite get that same touchingness out of it, the fact that she's repeating what he says. But yeah, at least they may be talking a lot, and it may be a bit drawn out, but they're not actually saying goodbye as such. It's not spelled out. It's very subdued, and that makes it even more powerful.
I think as well what makes it even worse is that Sarah was joking about packing her bags, and then she's like, oh, I'm only joking, and then like, oh no, you've got to go, Sarah. And I feel that's what makes it kind of even difficult, because she doesn't really want to go. She just did it as a joke, but she's just got to bite her lip and just go, right, I'm gonna go now, really.
Yeah, it's all very sudden for her, isn't it?
Which is most classic companion departures, really, isn't it? Look at Tegan, just goes, really. There we are.
But then Invasion of Time sort of comes along and says, oh, Leela's fine to come along to Gallifredo, and it's not even Sarah Jane does I mean, I think, does she have more screen time to come after Hand of Fear? Like, if you include Sarah Jane Adventures, obviously.
Well, you've got K9 and Company as well. You can't forget that, Jem.
Yeah.
Can't forget that lovely thing. But yeah, Adam. Oh, sorry, Luke. I keep cutting you off.
Okay. Yeah, I was just gonna say, I feel like she does have in the Whoniverse, she has more to come after Hand of Fear than she had before Hand of Fear.
Definitely like a Sarah Jane Renaissance, really, I feel.
Yeah. Thank RTD.
Thank RTD for that, and a new generation can love Elizabeth Sladen, which we'll talk about in the special feature, I guess. So, Adam, Hand of Fear, let's go for it.
Yeah. So second story in, and this for me, as you say, it's probably the one in season 14 that isn't like my least favorite, but if I were to rank them, it might appear at the bottom, but still very solid. I think Elizabeth Sladen is fantastic. The power / influence of Eldrad. She can sell it in a look, particularly when she's walking with the Tupperware container with the hand and pushing away like the guards, everything. She completely carries it. Brilliant performance. Quite an odd, like it's quite, for like a companion's final story, for some of it to be under the power of the villain, like it's fairly unique in that kind of sense. Like nothing I suppose springs to my mind where that has happened with another companion in their final story. But she's great. She's just brilliant. Total Tom is on top form as well. I do feel like by part 4, it does lose itself a little bit, like sort of with Luke saying, Stephen Thorne coming up and kind of being more of a generic villain type kind of, and he trips over the scarf. Oh gosh dang. Oh man.
He should have been a god.
He should have been, yeah, he should have been. Or a damon, however people would want to say it. But yeah, Glenn Houston's good. Glenn Houston. I forgot the actor's. I forgot the character's name, but he's very good. Like, there's a scene where he's saying goodbye to his wife and like children. I thought that's a pretty like deep scene. Like, and he's great in it. And you think, oh, maybe it could be the end of it.
It's like it's skirting around the subject, like the goodbye. It's not just he's not saying, "Oh, I'm gonna die now. Please, accept my loved one." It's just, "Oh, how are you doing? Oh, yeah, I might be a bit late home from work. Just wanted to hear your voice." Its subtlety is where its brilliance lies, and I think that's Hand of Fear has a lot of good little moments like that. That sadly, the overall picture doesn't quite meld together as well as it probably could have done, but still loads of wonderful moments. Sorry, Adam.
No, that's absolutely fine. Actually, what I found with part one is the doctor, when the doctor's in the hospital, the doctor's like, "Are you from Gallifrey?" He's like, "Yes." Is that an island? And I realized, because I watched Human Nature and Family of Blood fairly recently, that comes up again with dialogue between Joan Redfern and John Smith in Human Nature, which I thought was quite funny. Is he's from Gallifrey, and then people saying, "Is that from Ireland?" Which I quite liked how, because I forgot that. Well, I forgot really in either stories that was like even a scene, but that kind of dialogue kind of echoing through again. It's quite nice. And actually, it's funny in retrospect, because in the season 10 box set, there was a documentary on Lenny Mayne, who was the director on this, and his wife's in the story. That it wasn't Elizabeth Sladen's whistle in the very last scene; it was the director's whistle in the very last scene, which has completely changed everything. I wanted to. That documentary almost ruined me, knowing that it wasn't Elizabeth Sladen's whistle.
I mean, speaking of Lenny Mayne, I feel like there's some interesting direction choices in it, especially when the Doctor and the Professor character are on their way to the nuclear power plant, because you've got that sort of odd shot of the camera in between Tom's legs, just pointing up.
Yes,
it's just a bit of an odd shot, I thought, to use. And then the car's on the wrong way of the road.
Long scarf, but not from that point of view.
I mean, Lala might have, but that's a different story, I guess.
that was the shot that won it all. Yeah, totally. And I suppose, I think what's weird is, I think maybe a lot of people might think, well, the goodbye, like sort of Sarah suddenly being in a huff in part 4, sort of might sort of, for some people, come out of nowhere. But I kind of feel like, well, she's been under the influence of Eldrad, and obviously the plant was about to, the control set was about to like blow. So there is some sort of post-traumatic. I suppose that she probably goes through some post-traumatic stress by the time like she comes back into the TARDIS after all that shit's gone down, pretty much. So I kind of I can kind of see where the sort of why she'd feel this particular stress and anger sort of by the end of it. And boy, am I sick of that sonic screwdriver is a quote that I could sort of make relevant to the current era of Doctor Who.
Yeah.
Dare I say it?
I mean, that's a topic for another day, I guess.
That's a topic and a half.
There was something you said just now, but it has gone from my mind, I'm afraid.
I mean, what Sarah Jane needs is a good old spin-off with a robot dog in the Cotswolds, and she'll be fine. She can recover from being, nearly sacrificed and hypnotized. But I'm just going to quickly mention one of my faults at the Hand of Fear is part 3. I feel like it's treading the same ground as part 2. I feel like the same stuff happens in part 2 as in part 3. I feel like it's quite repetitive. I feel
it calms down, doesn't it? And then it picks back up again, but in the same way. Yeah. I think one of the interesting things I find about the story, I remember what I was just about to say now, is that you've obviously got the whole stuff on the alien planet towards the end, and it's quite tacky sets, but actually the majority of it is very contemporary Earth. But it's the first time in a long time, maybe like since John Pertwee's era started, that we have a contemporary Earth story where the Doctor's very much, and Sarah, sort of like out of their element in a way. They're not being either part of UNIT or being brought in on referral from unit like Seeds of Doom. It's very much they show up and then they are involved in this story, and there's no like, I'll quickly phone up unit to establish their credentials. It's like any other story where they have to earn the character's trust, prove that they are trustworthy and like no one really believes in aliens and stuff. It's very strange for that era, really, for it to take that step out of the unit comfort zone, I guess, because they've been fading away for some time, sadly, but this is the first time that we've completely removed them from a contemporary Earth story.
Yeah, it's true, actually, yeah. That is very true. So should we do our ratings of the Hand of Fear and then move on to like a good Doctor Who story? So Adam,
Harsh.
I mean, I'm not being harsh. I'm just moving on. Like, I feel like the Sarah Jane stuff's decent, but then you get to the good stuff when you get to the Deadly Assassin onwards, really.
I quite find it funny that Elizabeth, there's a bit of Liverpool accent by the end, like he blew it, and of course that kind of bond that Tom and Liz had was because they were both from Liverpool, so that's still strong with them. But if I was going rating, I'd give this a 7 out of 10.
That's fair. Luke?
I'm skirting between 7 and 8 even.
8? Blimey.
I'll restrain myself. I'll go 7, but it's a high 7 after this watch. I think this watch really has turned this story around for me. It still has its failings, particularly in part 4, but for the most, like I said, it's got so many good little moments in it, though, that I really do enjoy, that I can overlook some of the large failings. Even then, it's still fun. I did enjoy it very much on this watch. So, but yeah, I think I'll restrain myself. I'll go 7.
Well, I think we've got a full house again. We're going for a 7 out of 10 as well. So 7 Eldrad hands out of 10, I guess. Lovely. So, Deadly Assassin. What a story that is. A story, just from the opening sequence, you know that it's not going to be your typical Doctor Who story from the sort of Star Wars-esque, title scroll thing with the, Time Lords of Millennium or Gallifrey, whatever. You just know that it isn't going to be the Doctor Who story, what we've all grown. And this is another example of Philip Hinchcliffe experimenting, I guess. So what a story this is. One of the most grim, violent stories out there. It's a sort of psychological, political thriller. You've got the Master returning as a crispy husk. It's just a really good story, isn't it? So, Luke, what do you think?
It's almost like shit hitting the fan for classical, isn't it?
Really is. It really is.
It very much does have that feel of it being an event story. And like you said about the title call at the start, just to freshen it up, obviously Dr. Solo on his own. And
it's Tom's sort of heaven sent, isn't it? It's very much got that equivalent vibe to it, but it's heaven sent for Tom Baker in a way, especially when you get to part 3.
Except it doesn't have a pointless cameo from the previous companion.
I mean, it could work actually in the Matrix. You could put Sarah in the Matrix. I suppose that could work in a way.
So have her be a companion for a one-off episode just in the Matrix. But yeah, I think it's funny how this very much came about because Tom wanted it to. He wanted every story to be just him on his own. So it's like, we'll throw him a bone, we'll give him one story, and then just prove that he can't do it on his own. Unfortunately, it didn't quite work out like that because it ended up being an absolute classic. And actually, I think I'm going to go off on a bit of a tangent here towards another story that I've rewatched recently with Inferno. I think that is the closest, other than Deadly Assassin, that Doctor Who comes to a classic Doctor Who. I mean, came to a Doctor Solo story with Pertwee in the parallel dimension. It's very much him on his own, even though we still have Liz there, this alternate Liz. But yeah, other than that, this is obviously the only true story where we've got a companionless Doctor and almost a female-less cast as well.
No, but I feel like that kind of represents sort of Time Lord society, why the Doctor left it is quite doddery, run by, these old archetypal men. I feel like that fits why the Doctor left Gallifrey, and it kind of reaffirms why he wanted to leave. And I feel like it's a good example of that, really.
It doesn't quite work out now that we know that Time Lords can change gender, but I guess we'll just put it down to that coincidentally Leo ended up regenerating into men at that time. And I think, the only female, not even on screen, but you do have the voice of the chronicling.
Yeah.
You do at least have that. So but I get the meaning of it being like all old and stuffy. Though it's fair, and I mean it's once again, like we'll get on to with another story in a bit. It's a product of its time. It's a much less controversial product of its time though, and still a jolly good one. I think one thing that people often point out is the Matrix scenes in Part 3. It's very much like its own, not separate chapter as such, because it does obviously play into the story, but it does stand out a bit. But actually, each episode is its own like chapter. It's not like in other Classic Who where the story will continue throughout. It very much does shift through different phases. Like Part 1 is the Doctor trying to stop this. Part 1 is very much the Doctor trying to stop the assassination that he knows is going to happen, and then it ends with the assassination. Part 2 is him trying to plead his case, plead that he's guilty, and then it ends with him going to Matrix. Part 3 is obviously the Matrix one, and then it's the escape from that, and then Part 4 is that epic resolution, I think. So when you think of it like that, episode 3 on its own isn't quite as much of an oddity as such, I suppose, because each episode is very much its own separate chapter. It's just this chapter happens to take place in a somewhat different location, and obviously it's a very exciting location as well. You've got a lot of danger. You've got like this duel between the Doctor and Goth.
I like that bit when you see sort of Tom sort of denying the reality of like his leg's been shot and wounded, and like he heals himself, and then next minute Goth's like, no, this is my domain, I make the rules, and then the blood comes back. I feel like that's such a really good moment that you feel like he's fully grasping the situation, then he just loses control again. Brilliant stuff.
Yeah, and I think on reading the booklet as well, I found out something else that I didn't know before, was that originally the samurai cut was meant to be the cliffhanger, but because of timing wise, it was just Part 3 was overrunning. Part 2 was
episode one's like 20 minutes, isn't it? Episode 1 is very short.
Yeah, that's true. And I think that comes down to it being like structured as these different chapters. Like it's made to end at those certain points, and I think that would have worked even more for Part 3 if it had ended with the samurai cut, because then it would have been even more wholly in the Matrix pretty much. But at the same time, I do feel like the train is a more impactful cliffhanger than the samurai cut, and it works because it is almost a cliffhanger moment. But no, it's still going. We're still going on with this, so it like takes the breath out of you even more before you finally do get that release at the end of Part 2 when the train's coming at you.
Definitely. Adam, Deadly Assassin.
My definite clear favourite of the season. I think it's a well-told political conspiracy thriller written, of course, by Robert Holmes, and he pretty much had that very much ambition to explore Gallifrey and really see what the society is like of the Time Lords, and he does it really superbly, because I love the characters like Engin and Spandrel and the two type of...
That's quite classic of Robert Holmes scripts, that he has a double act in it, isn't it? You've got Talons Weng-Chiang, Jago and Lightfoot, and you've got, Channing and, the other person in Spearhead and Warrior Operation. It's quite a common thing in Robert Holmes to have, double acts, and Spandrel and Elgin. Brilliant. I love them. They're great. They're a lovely bunch. So, sorry, Adam, carry on.
No, also, and they were great with Tom.
Sorry, Luke.
Yeah, I was just saying the guard as well. I can't remember his name now. The guard who's like really incompetent, and Spandrel's or always having a go at him, isn't he? And I think that's a wonderful double act too.
Oh yes. Because he goes rogue in like part 3 when he's gonna meddle with
he's
the
hypnotized by
control
the
of the Matrix.
Master.
Yeah.
Is that? No, that isn't the same guard. That's
Oh, it isn't the same guard.
No, because the guard who gets
he goes to
used
destroy
by
the Master's
Spandrel is
body.
the one who he's the one who later goes down to stun the body. He's like, I chose you for this assignment because he's already dead, so it will be difficult for you to miss. It's just there's lots of wonderful dialogue like that by Robert Holmes in this story. Yeah, sorry, go on, Adam.
No, yeah. There was another chap I quite liked. Was the guy who's doing the news, like the TV reportings, and then I love that Tom has like quite a nice bit of dialogue with him. You have a wonderful way of making the whole thing come alive. Like there's these sort of these nice sort of character sort of quirks and everything that I'm kind of. It makes me glad that the society's kind of being explored to get a good idea of what it's like. And of course, this is the first story to feature Barusa, who would later become a bit evil by the Five Doctors. And of course, we know in the Five Doctors is how he fell from grace. Because in here, he's very much a different kind of Barusa to what you'd see later in the classic era, and. As much as I love the Bruce and the Five Doctors, like he's very much, obviously he was a teacher. He taught the Doctor at the academy, but he was very kind of, I don't know if to say mean spirited, fairly mean spirited to that news reporter chap. Just like he sort of dismissed him as like good day, but he just wanted a little bit for his news, but he wasn't having it. But
He's
and then also
stuck up, isn't he? Of like his
very stuck up,
his position in Time Lord hierarchy. He's like, oh, that is a very menial job you've got there, looking down on you. Which was, I mean, it still is a case in society today, but even more so back then. I feel it was you had like those jobs, like theatre actors would look down on TV actors and things like that, and so it does very much work for that like stuffy society that Robert Holmes.
I mean, it's a very classical performance, isn't it? It's a very classical.
Yes.
Very clipped and direct, address. And
it's very much because for him, he wanted to sort of try and find a way to cover it up, like the whole thing up. It's like, it's heroes. If heroes don't exist, it's necessary to invent them. It sort of makes for good public morale and all that kind of thing. And also later in series 12, Time Lords had this whole secret. They sort of had their own secrets. They've been like hiding stuff, so it's quite interesting. Obviously, looking forward to the Timeless Child and all that. So that's cool. So all the stuff set on Gallifrey is very interesting and very. Also, it's a great set design as well. I think this is probably the best the Gallifrey's looked in the classic series because I'm not. The Invasion of Time Lord looks okay, and like obviously later on it kind of become like the BBC reception kind of thing, but I think it's definitely the best they looked. I'll touch on it now. Roger Murray Leach is an amazing production designer. He particularly with the series and Talons and all the ships and robot, all that kind of stuff, and Gallifrey and everything. Yeah, superb. So I feel like the Philip, Robert and Roger team are on top form again with this story. Tom is phenomenal, both on and in the Matrix and on Gallifrey. Peter Pratt's very good as the Master. I'd say he's the crispy version for me. Like I like Jeffrey Beavers, but there is something about him how very deceiving and very very much behind the scenes he kind of feels in that one. Yeah. Is there anything else? Direction. David Maloney's directed this one, and he's one of my favorite. He's a really good director. Showcases sort of the sets of wonderfully. And yes, of course, the Mary Whitehouse moment at the end of part 3 where the Doctor drowns. And I'll touch on this now because it's touched on in the Philip Hinchcliffe interview where I do believe I remember him saying is I think he sort of now regrets sort of having that freeze because of course you see the moment of him drowning and then there's a freeze frame right at the end of part 3 of the Doctor underwater. And I do agree. It's weird how because at the end there's the Genesis cliffhanger where Sarah falls down off that thing. That's a freeze frame as well. Like I'm not like I'm not like 100% on the freeze frame cliffhangers. They don't quite do it for me, but particularly that was with traumatizing. Literally, you have that moment, and then it's like freeze framed right there. Like, oh, good God. But I think I'm glad they pushed the boat out a bit when it comes to the violence and everything. Like you said, with this is my reality. So you see the with the blood on the doctor's leg and such. I'm glad they pushed for part 3 and part 4, epic fight, and all's right with the world by the end.
What I love about this is kind of the Sherlock Moriarty feel to it as well, in the sense that you've got the sort of TCE cameraman in like the camera, and the doctor's like, oh, that's his way of saying hello. And I just think that's really sort of Sherlock Holmes Moriarty, that it's just their way of saying hello, but their school, that I feel like, is it Spandrel said, don't bring like your petty feuds to Gallifrey or whatever it is. I feel like it's a real good. I feel like the way Peter Pratt shot the Master shot, it's just really effective, and especially when he's sort of playing dead, and you just got his sort of corpse in the chair, just really creepy stuff. And it's just brilliant, especially when you. Oh, go on, Luke.
Like the sets for that lower, and like the lighting as well. There's very much that distinction between like the lower levels of Gallifrey and the upper levels of Gallifrey, isn't there? Makes it even more creepy. And funnily enough, reading the behind the scenes book that I saw, I was saying about there were distinct worries budget wise and with the sets that it would not look good. But it's that whole thing of lighting really is key, and it really does help. But these sets really are wonderful. It brings out the best in the story. And I mean, when you compare it to what just came before with Hand of Fear and those sets in part 4, it really is spectacular work in this. And it's just funny hearing that there were worries about that, because looking at it, you would never know.
Definitely. And I suppose we touched on this slightly because Adam mentioned the sort of timeless child filter. I guess back in the 70s, this was the equivalent of the timeless children, in the sense that it is exploring Gallifrey. Does it destroy the mystery of the Time Lords?
Yeah, so it was controversial at the time, I think, isn't it?
Definitely.
I think it's good to sort of see the society, and it's more like I suppose like the personality to what kind of people are on Gallifrey, and I feel like if there's still a mystery around the Doctor, because that's still, I suppose in a way, seeing all the Time Lords sort of obviously the Doctor is still a big part of the story, but not as, I suppose, like as it doesn't really destroy the mystery of the Doctor in that kind of sense. Where for many people, where for others, you found on Gallifrey, maybe they do reveal a lot about the Doctor's history with the planet, but it's more about what is that society like, and that's sort of the question I feel like Robert Holmes wanted to explore, and I feel like he explored it wonderfully while still leaving to interpretation, because you only sort of have one part of Gallifrey. Like Gallifrey, it's like a huge planet with many different societies. Obviously, you have the kind of Arcadia, sort of all that stuff that's kind of referenced later on. So I still feel like it's done very well, and also there's a story at the heart of it. Like it doesn't go into a complete lecture of its history and what it how it's related to the Doctor and everything. So I still feel in that sense it's done very well.
Yeah. I think you have some funny things like the Eye of Harmony, how that's turned into like a myth now. In the Three Doctors, it's very much like an important thing for all of Gallifrey's power and all their time travel and everything. But I think that with things like that, I think when it comes to Doctor and continuity, you just ignore those areas, you just gloss over them to enjoy the story at hand.
Definitely. So, should we rate The Deadly Assassin? I sense it's going to be quite high. I sense it's going to be quite a high score. So, Adam, you're looking with happy glee. Go on, give us your rating.
Yeah, I'm going high on this one, 10. Like Robert Holmes, again, for this particular era, smashed it out the park. The way he explored Gallifrey, Bernard Horsfall as well, who is probably maybe up there with Michael Sheen, one of my favourite recurring classic Who actors, because he was in The Mime Robber. I know he's in The War Games as a Time Lord, funnily enough, and then Planet of the Daleks, and in this story. and this is definitely him at his most evil, because he played quite either heroic or endearing characters, like heroic in terms of Cloud of Dice and then Gulliver and Mind Robber, but here he's evil and brilliant, and I love it. Great cast, great production design, great story. It definitely pushed the boat out without I don't feel like ever it being too gratuitous, too frightening, but enough to really send shivers down the spine. It's incredibly, it's just brilliant.
I think building off of what you said with Bernard Horsfall there, it's yet another thing that I found reading the booklet. 'Cause I love the booklets. They're one of the great things about his sets, to be honest. And it's just got that wonderful artwork, but also just these little facts that you don't pick up on before. Seeing that Bernard Horsfall, part of the reason he was cast was because of how tall he was. For those Matrix scenes, they wanted someone who could really oppose Tom Baker quite well. So obviously Tom Baker is rather a tall actor, so you have to get someone in who physically can share that screen space, can believably put up that fight. And so it's just funny seeing that he was partially cast because of that.
Does he play the clown as well, the Ravenous, or should I say? Because I guess this is like the Ravenous, isn't it?
I think he definitely plays the Doctor and the Samurai.
Yeah, I'm not
sure about the clown.
Because I've never quite pinpointed if he did play the clown.
Yeah.
But there we are. So we just had a comment from Brian Smith saying Deadly Assassin and the Ark of Infinity both have the Doctor recalled to Gallifrey, put to death, and a renegade Time Lord Master / Omega, both using members of the High Council to do their dirty work and similar plot. So that's true, actually. I never thought of it that way. That is quite similar. That's quite cool, actually. Didn't know. Well, I mean, it's been a while since I watched Ark of Infinity, actually.
I've never watched it, to be honest.
I mean, if season 20 is next, and you're going to be watching that.
Yeah.
Season 20, funnily enough, is the one I've seen the least from. I've only seen Snake Dance and King's Demons. I don't have Ark of Infinity or the Black Guardian trilogy, so I'm looking forward to that one.
So speaking of that, what would you rate Deadly Assassin?
Yeah, I'm going to go 9, just about, but a very high 9. It really is a very enjoyable story, lots of wonderful, horrific moments. And yeah, I will say I really do enjoy it. I think the reason why it's not a 10, I'm not quite sure exactly. It's not like there's anything wrong that deducts a point. It's just that it's not quite right enough to boost up the high points. I think when you're rating things, you don't like start at a 10 and then as you're watching it, knock a point off for that. That's not doing well. Or maybe add another one back on because that bit was particularly good. I feel like, but you don't start at the bottom either and add points on. I feel like maybe you start in the middle and then see where you go, really. But yeah, it's not necessarily that it does anything wrong, just doesn't do quite enough right, I guess, but still does a lot right. So yeah, I feel like I reserve the 10 out of 10s for the real tip top of Classic Who, which maybe we will get to in a bit.
Yeah, I'm going to go slap bang in the middle of both of you. I'm going to go for 9.5 out of 10. I think for it's almost there. It's almost there. I don't know what stops me from giving it a 10, but it's definitely up there. Definitely in my top 10 Baker stories. Definitely in that sort of tier of Fourth Doctor stories. Definitely in that list.
I hope Kai Cerberus the Fibster isn't in the chat right now. He would not be happy with a point rating.
No, I can't do a decimal point, but I'm indecisive and I can't go from a 9 or a 10. So for now, I'll just go in the middle. I'll just go in the middle for now. So move on to the next story. Tom Baker wanted a talking cabbage. He didn't get a talking cabbage. He got Leela in The Face of Evil, Leela's first story. So Adam, what do we think of The Face of Evil?
You're right in the sense that he didn't get a talking cabbage, but he did have that nice 4/4 breaking right at the beginning, which I quite like, actually. I think this is not Hyde Park. And I suppose before going into the story, I'm completely losing track of Big Finish news, but are they doing stories to fill the gap between The Deadly Assassin and The Face of Evil? Is that a thing? Or am I could be making this up, but
that's series 11, I think. So that'll be the 2022 series.
oh, in 20. Oh God, that's going to be a while. Because I definitely feel like there's definitely a gap there. Because where he has been on his own, maybe with the Talking Cabbage, or maybe with
more
Bilal.
Doctor Solo stories, and one of them will feature what's her name, Neris Hughes as Margaret Hopwood or something like that, like as a new companion.
Oh, just the new companion. Oh, right.
Yeah, but she'll just be like a one-off companion in one story in that series, and then she will come back and join full-time in the 2023 series with Leela as well. So it'll be a trio.
Oh my God!
Big Finish. They've got plans.
Yeah,
they've got plans to fill that gap because yeah, my God. But I reckon that kind of period would be really fun. But I suppose going into the face of the story at hand, it's quite interesting how you do start off on this sort of tribe planet of the 17 and then realize it isn't quite. Obviously, they have that tribe, but there's more sort of going on that the Doctor, that eventually there are future actions that the Doctor, that the current Doctor sort of hasn't done, but in the future there'll be a point where suddenly he'll add his personality to this supercomputer and suddenly will become the great Zoanon, who I'll just say right now, Tom Baker's great as both the Doctor and Zoanon, because obviously you have the Doctor who's very much he is the fourth Doctor, as you know, but then when Tom can switch to this sort of intelligent supercomputer again, like does it incredibly well. So I love that.
Yeah, I should say I feel like he's often called out for almost hamming up performances like that. But in this one, it really is quite subtly done, isn't it, when he's Zoanon?
He's very unnerving. There's definitely a sense that, particularly part 3's cliffhanger as well, the "Who am I" moment. Yeah. My God, even then the chills down the spine. And I remember, I think I did watch the making. Yeah, no, I did. I watched the making of documentary, and they interviewed the child actor who does the last bit at the very end. Who's like in his I don't know, his 40s, 50s now, just say how exciting it was. I think like it was the director's wife, or like his wife worked at school or something, or like he was just brought on because like there was some relation to the director, just brought on to do that little bit. And how excited it was.
Competition or something? I don't know.
Yeah, he might be, but again, like he's brilliant.
Yeah. It was certainly something like he got the chance to come along. It wasn't actually to record.
Yes,
it was like to meet Tom Baker, to walk around, and then they were like, well, we've got this child here. Let's make use of some free labour and get him to shout, "Who am I?" for a impactful cliffhanger.
I only discovered until recently that one of the Zoanon voices is Pamela Salem, who would literally be in the story after this, Robots of Death, as Toos, and in, of course, as one of the countermeasures team later on in Remembrance of the Daleks, which is quite cool. Yeah, Leela's first.
She was brought onto this during the production of Robots of Death, wasn't she? Because she was like hanging around in the studio and everything, and they thought, because they were doing the post-production work, I think they brought her in.
Yeah, I do like the Tom's first scenes with Louise. I think they are very fun. They said the evil one doesn't eat babies. Well, nobody's perfect. I think there is some warmth there right at the beginning. I know, obviously, things might get sort of a little bit sour later, but I think for now, I suppose because she wasn't like a companion like yet. I suppose they haven't been on adventures like this. Is sort of him. Obviously, the Doctor just arriving on his planet and discovering, sort of meeting these people, this tribe rather, for the first time. So I definitely feel like there's a bit of warmth, and I like that moment. It's in part 4, and then Leela's like, "Can I come in this time?" And he's like, "Perhaps." There is. I think there's something right there at the beginning, but I do obviously see what you mean. Sort of going later on in their how Tom wasn't really feeling the chemistry, I suppose.
I wonder if maybe Tom was like being on his best behaviour, trying to like convince the producers, like, look, I can be a good boy. Let me have my own way and get rid of her after this story. Like, there's still a chance
Yeah.
that she can just not get in the TARS at the end of this story. So if I behave myself, maybe they'll give me what I want, but they did not.
I mean, there is a moment I really like with Leela and the Doctor in part 4 when Leela's like got the chocolates, and like she has a chocolate, and then she just puts it by him while he's sort of still recovering from, Zoannon, really.
His nose.
Yeah, I thought that was a really sweet moment. I really did enjoy that little moment because it's just a nice little moment what you could just throw away, but it's a really beautifully played by Louise Jameson, I feel.
Yeah.
I feel like the restoration for this story, brilliant, especially like part 1 in the jungle, looks incredible. With like the film trims, it just looks stunning, and I really like the jungle set within this, because it's not like a stereotypical jungle. It doesn't have like greens at all. The hoarders, I think, are great. They remind me of like silverfish, what you see around there. Like they're really great little thing, and I have a real soft spot for this story. I feel like Chris Boucher is quite an underrated Doctor Who writer, I feel, and I feel like it's quite nice because obviously he did Face of Evil and he's done Robots of Death, having 2 Leela stories, so I feel like he gets to expand on his own companion in a way, and I love it. I just think it's a real clever idea, that Sever team, survey team, the Tesh technicians. I think that's a really wonderful idea, and the idea of the Doctor, being there before and not having any idea. Neva brilliantly over the top when the Doctor first appeared. He's got the machine going like, "Oh, see," I just love that. I love Neva. He's just so over the top. He's brilliant.
There's that wonderful moment later where the Doctor's like pretending to be Zoannon to get Neva to do something. He's like, "Yes, Doctor," and then the Doctor's, "I've been underestimating that man."
Yeah,
that's wonderful moments like that.
It's brilliant. I love that. And then you've got the sort of creepy Zoannon sort of ghost in like part 3 of Tom's face just like in the jungle. That's really creepy.
Yeah.
Creepy. Sorry, Luke, go on.
Yeah, and then I think yet another gem from the booklet, I'm afraid I'm going on about it again, was that originally someone was suggesting going into like a real life forest and filming it, but whoever directed it, I can't remember who off the top of my head, said no. Let's
Pennant
do
Williams.
I know it's Pennant Roberts, but I don't know. Yeah.
Because he put Louise for the job for Leela, did he?
It was Pennant Roberts, because I think he might have done Mask of Mandragora earlier, and then I don't know if he comes back. No, Dave Maloney did Talos. I don't know I forgot who did Robots.
Yeah, it's someone.
Michael E. Bryan, that's it.
Michael E. Bryan,
yeah. But yeah, for this story, he said no. Let's do it in the studio, but obviously, like, I think it's Ealing, isn't it, where they did their like filming studio stuff, where they made those dramatic sets, and I think that's good. It gives it that much more alien quality, but also the reason he gave was that it wouldn't be that jarring when you went to, like, the studio scenes, like inside the Sever team huts, and I think that's very true. I feel like even though it does switch from film to video camera, it's so much less jarring, and it still works very well, I feel. But yeah, it's a beautiful set. It really does feel like a Alien Planet. So it takes us back to the 60s a bit, where it feels a bit like Skaro in the original The Daleks in some ways. You would have similar sound effects, I think, at the start.
I feel like that's the sort of BBC standard sound effects of the jungle, really.
Yeah, that's just like what they get. But yeah, also, it's this great mystery as well. It's one of those stories that I'd love to wipe my memory of it and go into clean, just because of like that brilliant part 1 cliffhanger where the Doctor's like Mount Rushmore on this cliff top and everything. You've got so many like intriguing plot lines like that, and like you were saying earlier about Sever team, survey team, like the whole plot of a ship crashing and the inhabitants being split in half and this computer's going mad, all these different elements. And that
being the computer's personality as well, sort of one being sort of the telepathic sort of thing, then the other sort of being, like, I don't know, it's sort of the 2 personalities of Zoannon, wasn't it?
Yeah, I thought I'd just add that and there's that bit in part 4 where obviously the doctor's once the doctor's removed his personality from the computer, that obviously it's good again. I think there is kind of this mention of it was sort of the doctor's personality that sort of the reason why it went rogue to begin with. So there's, I suppose, maybe in a way there might be some sort of, it does sort of play on the doctor's kind of darker elements, I suppose, in a sense.
I think the way I saw it less so was that because it wasn't quite, because obviously the doctor's mind print's very different. You've got the two of them overlaying with each other, sort of in conflict with each other, and that's what drives it mad.
Right? Yeah.
And I think, yeah, and also the fact that it's a computer, it's not necessarily meant to have that sort of mind in it, and so it can't quite take it, I guess, in a way. It's another reason it's driven mad. I think it's got a lot of good subtext when it comes to like religious subtext as well. This idea of when they're looking at, when the primitives are looking out over the ship, and it's we finally get proof and we stop believing. We've proof we don't have to believe, and just little moments like that. I think it's really rich in some ways. And there's the other thing where it's like, this man, why is Neva praying if he doesn't expect an answer? Things like that are, it's a very deep story, surprisingly. Yeah, I think very rich in that subtext, and like I was saying before, this wonderful setup that would be wonderful to experience first time with all this mystery. It's like a simple setup when you get down to it, and so when we rewatch it, we don't appreciate it quite as much, I feel sometimes.
It's definitely, I feel like it's quite an underrated Fourth Doctor story. It's not one what gets talked about, which is a shame actually, because like you said, there is so many things to enjoy from it. It is quite a rich story, as you said.
And it is the most recent Classic Who story to have aired on BBC TV.
Yeah, because it was on BBC 4, wasn't it, a couple of years ago?
Yeah, to lead up to Pointless, where Louise Jameson was on it. Was it Pointless?
Was that the tie-in? Is that why they put it on?
I think so.
I also thought...
Oh, go on, Adam.
Oh, no, I was just going to say, I think, because it was by that time that, I suppose, BBC Store was launching, so I didn't know whether it was to promote, like, watching, like, you can explore the whole of the classic era on BBC Store.
And I suppose as well, you have the Hand of Fear for Elizabeth Sladen, because BBC 4 showed that, so we've had 2 stories on BBC 4 from the season. As well. So I guess that concludes Face of Evil. So I'm gonna give it a 9 out of 10. There's just something about this story I just love watching it. I forget how brilliant it is, and it's definitely one of the high points of the season for me. So Adam, what do you rate the Face of Evil?
I was actually tying myself between 8 or 9, but I'm going to go with 9. Mainly because I think it's mainly Chris Boucher's scripts, concepts, and ideas, and how brilliantly they've been explored. And this is a nice, warm. It's like a nice sort of warm introduction to the Dr. Leela dynamic. No matter how you might think, I sort of might think of it go forward, and how Tom might not be so comfortable. I do enjoy their moments in this story. They're so wholesome. And I like the scene right at the end. She literally just walks straight in, and for Dr. Teller to come outside, don't touch that, and off they go. It is a nice start to it all.
I mean, he's a bit different in talent of Weng-Chiang about Janus Thorns, isn't he? When that person with the axe gets for Janus Thorn, he's got a different approach to Janus Thorns then, compared to this story. Luke,
Janus Thorns appearing on TV?
I don't think they appear in. No, they're not in Robots. I think it's only Talent and Face of Evil.
Yeah. I'd say my rating, I am going to go a 9. I feel it drops. It's slightly less interesting in the second half. I feel I really do feel that first half. It's amazing. Second half drops off ever so slightly, but still, it's a very enjoyable story. As we said, lots of different subtext. Also, loads of wonderful set design, even inside the spaceship. I think it's really strong stuff. And you have that whole thing of it's only one corridor, like one little set they used, but they arranged it differently each shot so that it looked completely different. So yeah, I will say this one is not a 9 out of 10 for me, and not a solid rating. I feel like it's one Mask, Hand of Fear, and Face of Evil. I think are always the ones that are competing in people's to be the bottom of the season. In a sense, I think if you ask someone what their least favorite of season 14 is, it will be one of these three stories, and then those other three are like the top tier ones. But nevertheless, like these may be like the bottom half, but they are still all really good. And for me, Face of Evil is my favorite of the bottom three.
I think we can all agree on that.
I think
definitely.
Should we go rankings quickly for the moment? Mine being Hand of Fear, then Mask, then Face of Evil, then Deadly Assassin. What about your guys's?
Of the four stories, without including Robots of Talons, Deadly, Face, Mask, Hand.
No.
No, I'm probably the same as Adam. I think, yeah.
That's it. Yeah, we're all the same then.
Pretty much.
Be interested to see if that keeps up, because I think our ratings have been, other than Deadly Assassin, where they were all very close, our ratings have been the same.
Nothing lower than a 7.
No, not at all. I feel like this is where it changes, because Robots of Death, I've always had a soft spot for it. I mean, it is a quintessential classic story. It's a good murder mystery story. It's Agatha Christie on a sand miner. You've got pure blast of Dudley Simpson. When the sand miner appears, you've just got solid blast of Dudley Simpson. It's just Dudley going full Dudley Simpson. The robot design, the Vok robots, are so iconic. That sort of uncanny valley, sort of ancient Greek sort of look. They're just so ingrained in my mind as a Doctor Who fan. I just love this story. You've sort of got the prototype to K9 in the form of D84. You could argue that this is D84 is the prototype for K9. You've got brilliant sort of dark, grim moments, with the Vok robots strangling people. You get the POV of the Vok robots. Is it Touche, Palmer Salem's character?
Yeah, and she has quite a noticeable mark around her neck.
Yeah, I was just about to mention that, but it doesn't hide away. You've got blood on the Vok robot's hands. It's just brilliant. I love this story. It's definitely one of my highlights.
There's blood as well. There's like a chunk of flesh or something on there. It's got...
Oh gosh, yeah. Oh yeah, when is it Tool? He goes what is it? Is it David Collins goes to see in the sort of broken robot area?
Yeah, that's it.
That's when you see it. Yeah.
Yeah, and that was it? I can't. It's the other about. It's not Chris Bouch. He's the writer. It's Brian Croucher. The actor.
Oh right.
Yeah, Brian Croucher's the actor. I can't remember what the character's name is. He's the one who the Doctor offers a jelly baby and he whacks it out of his hand like shut up. That character.
No, yeah, I know who you mean.
He's the one who ends up with that's his blood and his flesh on that robot's hand, and it's sort of, he gets that off-screen death, but it must have been quite a gruesome one.
Oh gosh. So, what do we think of the Robots of Death? Adam,
do I go first, Adam?
I feel like I was when I rewatched it on the box set. This is always a story I very much enjoyed, but I enjoyed it a lot more with this particular viewing. And there's something about it. Obviously, I love the Agatha Christie angle to this story. I like the crew. I think there's a very good balance of different kind of personality types. The one who's all about the money, the one who's all about business, the one who's all about strategy, everything kind of thing like that. There's a good sort of crew there, and obviously the Doctor leader, as soon as they arrive, very much are thrown into that classic Who story kind of thing, where there's like it's them who's part of it all, or kind of thing. The robot's iconic design, as you said. I do like that it doesn't go for a completely sort of weird, sort of creepy looking factor, but there's this kind of elegance to them as well. At the costume mechanic, and I love D84 to pieces. He is, he's the should have been companion, because we all have those, whether it's classic or modern. You have those companions who should have been there in the TARDIS, but weren't. But his brave sacrifice is one that he's a trooper, and I love that. I heard her cry. That was me. Moments.
Goodbye, my friend.
It's sad.
Breaks your heart.
Yeah.
I mean, we've had Sarah Jane's departure, now this. Like, it's too soon after the Hand of Fear to have another heartbreaking moment on Doctor Who. The sets are brilliant. Once again, I love the variety of the sets, where you have the sort of the main sort of control room, then you have Toose's bedroom, you have the sort of where sort of most of Part 4 happens in that sort of diary room. I kind of think it is. There's a nice cool moment where I think one of the robots walks in and the Doctor pulls the curtain and sort of reveals him just sat there on his lap, just like, hello. Tom again taking charge in this. He's wonderful. There's a moment in this, and my friend pointed it out, where someone's Liverpool accent sort of slips. I'm all about detecting the accent slip, particularly Sarah J. Spear. It's the part 4 where the guy's like, might get a chance to use one of these, whereas his natural accent kind of comes through, which is quite funny.
Behind the sofa as well.
Yeah. No, it's fun. It's creepy, as you said. Like David Collins is brilliant in this as well. How he sort of starts to develop this sense of feel of robophobia. How he's suddenly he's one of the more confident people on the ship, to how he's then suddenly under the table, fearing for his life. There's a sense of dread. It's directed brilliantly. Michael E. Bryant is. I think that's probably one of the highest praises I could give it. It's a superbly directed story. Great cliffhangers. A quintessential classic.
I'm always surprised how quickly in Part 2 that the crew members just get lobbed off. Like, it doesn't really hang around like Part 2. Like, majority of the crew are gone. It always sort of surprises me how quickly like the supporting cast just go.
I thought about the character earlier, Brian Crouch, who's killed off screen. He's very sudden. Like, you're not sure. And I think what it does there is, even though they're all killed off very quickly, you don't get that confirmation for a while. They're sort of they're just not around, some of them. Yeah, certainly Part 2 is where a lot of them just get taken out. And I think the script wise, I know Tom Baker wasn't a fan of it, was he? At least
was he?
Apparently. Yeah, I think this was when he was. I'm pretty sure they said this is when he was introduced to Graham Williams. And apparently he was talking shit about the script and everything. Then Philip came over and said, "Oh, let me introduce you to my replacement." And Tom starts singing its praises, "Oh, wonderful script! We have this great cut." Just to play politics, I guess. But yeah, and also, is it Michael Bryant? Isn't it? Correct.
Michael Lee Bryant, I think. Yeah.
They did quite a few Pertwee stories. Yeah.
Yeah, he also was not a fan of the script when he first got it, and it was one of those ones that was written in a hurry. And I feel like it's not a mind-blowingly amazing script, but it's a very good script that it's enhanced even more by the directing. And I think a lot of it does come from the fact that I think Michael Bryant himself decided on the whole Art Deco theme and everything, and having this very luxurious space liner, and his direction and that choice of how the robots look and everything. I feel like another director, it's weird thinking if we got another director, it probably would have been rather bland white corridors, very 60s standard robot style. But no, we get something that's very different, very unique, and that very much helps it stand out and raises the script quality to an even stronger extent. Fantastic performances as well, some brilliant lines given by them. And yeah, I think it really is a very strong classic. It really is quintessential Doctor Who, really. And I feel one of my biggest flaws of it is just how suddenly it ends, quickly knock out two sons. what's the commander's character, Ivanov, quickly knock them out and then be done with them, and then get off the sand miner. And also the sand miner as well. Like, it's a brilliant concept to have. You could have just had this Agatha Christie story on this standard location, like a simple static base undersea, like a mining base or something. But no, it's mining across a desert. It's this brilliant idea. And then obviously
it's kind of that isolation, claustrophobic feel, I guess, but they're out in the wilderness. It adds to it, I guess. And the sand miner, the model's brilliant as well.
Yeah, it's very Thunderbirdsy look to it, isn't it?
Definitely.
Oh God, I love, like, there's a very beautiful shot where the Doctor and Leela are looking out over just that bleak landscape. It's a very good model. It's very well done.
And Leela's like, it's beautiful.
Yeah, even Leela points out its beauty, and the Doctor's like, a bit garish for my taste. But yeah, and then obviously that sand miner plays into the cliffhanger at part 2, where the whole thing is sinking because the motors are gone, and that is a very intense cliffhanger with everything about it. The safety margins are going, and it's all just very intense build up. I think part 2 is probably my favorite cliffhanger of this story, and one of the strongest cliffhangers in this series, and it's a series of very strong cliffhangers, or season I should say. But yeah, I think just so many elements came together very nicely to make a script which could have gone either way into a classic and a really enjoyable watch.
Definitely. Should we move on to our ratings of The Robots of Death?
Yeah, I'm good to go.
Adam, do you want to give your rating?
I'm going 9 for this one, I'd say. Another 9.
Number 9. I'm gonna go 10 out of 10. I love it. I just think it's brilliant.
I'm on your side with this one, Ben. I'm going 10 out of 10 as well.
Oh, it's brilliant. I feel like it's one of the standouts for me. Just brilliant. The way the Vok robots are shot, going back to the directing, it's just good. Like, especially when you've got sort of Taron Capel with like the shoes, like you can't tell who is in charge of the robots. I feel like it's a good story. It's like what a good mystery story should do. It keeps you guessing throughout, really. It's definitely good.
An embarrassing admission, actually. Like, the very first time I watched it, I thought Ivanov was Taron Capel. Like, not just during it, but like when I'd finished it, the way for some reason, I'm not sure if maybe I watched the episodes a bit too far apart or something, but I just didn't really connect the two. I thought Daska got killed off screen. I think it's because he gets rid of his hat. I think without the hat, I didn't recognise the Ivanov we have later on, and so it's sort of I didn't quite catch on. I'm ashamed to say.
Yeah, I mean, especially as well, you've got that subplot with one of the characters going into his quarters and pulling out a file about this thing, what happened. That he throwed someone out of the miner and left him for dead, really.
Yeah,
so I guess
that
plays
nice moment later where he sort of like reveals the truth of it, and the whole thing of how that posh family was just like, oh, we can't have our son being viewed as a coward with robophobia. We've got to make it dignified, hush it up and everything. And obviously that reflects badly on Ivanov in a way. He feels very guilty for it, but no, it's just hushed up instead. And then that makes sense with his whole hatred towards the founding families and everything. Like, he just sees them as these stuck-up people who will cover up all these things to save face rather than admit the truth of the tragedy that happened to their son.
Well, there is a line, isn't there, when I think it's part 2, like, the more people die, it's more money, and I'm going to be richer than your family. So I guess that plays into it as well.
Yeah, that's true.
So
no, I don't think that's directly because of more people dying. I think it's just because of that trip itself.
I guess so. And I guess
because the first one to die was what's his name?
The scientist. Is it the geologist?
Meteorologist, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's it. So I don't think he would have got a share of what they bring back anyway, because he wasn't working on that. I don't think that's quite how to say. BA certainly does have a line about oh, when I'm back, I'm going to have more money than your stinking family ever could. But
Mm.
then at the same time, he actually quite likes Zilda as well. Like, yeah, after she's dead, he's like, oh, I thought once I was really rich, maybe I could have got with her, you know. Just a bit,
Steady
I
on.
think there's a bit of an age difference there, but whatever keeps you happy.
I mean, whatever floats your sand miner, I guess.
Yeah.
So we go on to the controversial story and the
Mm.
concluding story, The Talons of Weng-Chiang, which is quite interesting because we've had new special effects. So is that how we viewed Talons?
Yeah, I viewed it with the new special effects this time round.
I feel like you've got to, because it's there, so it feels rude not to try it, really.
Yeah, like I've been doing that with all the stories we've had so far: Castrovalva, Planet of the Daleks, and yeah, I will be honest. I'm not the biggest fan. I don't think like all the new blaster effects and things, like the guns and everything, the lasers, that all works for me. But the rat itself, and also the CGI Weng-Chiang's eyes, not Weng-Chiang, Lee Sen-Chang's eyes when he's doing the hypnotizing, and I don't, yeah, just something about. I think it's because what we had originally wasn't that bad. I never thought it's never like one that's jumped out to me as needing it. But I will be honest, I would have said the same about Planet of the Daleks, but I love that one, how subtle that is. But this one just feels ever so slightly too over the top for me, and there's not too much wrong with it beyond, like, the rat looks a bit awkward as well sometimes, like CGI on it, and just like the way it's shot doesn't quite work for me in some shots. But it's still, it's just, it was fun to watch for once. I enjoyed it, but I think it's not going to be my definitive version. I think next time I watch it, I will be watching the standard version. What about
so
you?
I feel like when the... Oh, sorry.
Sorry, yeah, you go, Ben.
I was just going to say, like, when the rat's first revealed, that's quite good, but when you start to see it scuttle towards Leela and Doctor in part 1, it doesn't feel like it's properly rendered. It doesn't look like fur, I feel.
That first shot, it's a static shot, isn't it? And it's just there in the background, in the shadows, and the movement is very natural. It feels very real. But then the next shot, the way it's running, the camera angle, just like you say, the rendering of the fur just doesn't feel right. I think the biting of Leela's ankle scene is done surprisingly well, though.
I guess it's covered up by the lighting in that, I guess. So I guess that kind of helps it, but it's planted over the actual costume rat.
Yeah, that's what makes me not mind the original prop so much either, because I know like a lot of people joke about the rat, but it's hardly in the story, and when it is, it's covered up by the dark quite a bit.
Adam, what are your thoughts on it? Sorry, Lee. I'll keep cutting you.
I was just going to say it's just such a bloody good story that I don't care if the rat looks bad anyway. But yeah, what were you going to say, Adam?
I was going to say I wasn't quite sure when they announced that Talons was going to get updated special effect, because Wendy had played such a massive part in my life for a long time now, and I thought she dare not be replaced. I won't lie, Angela, you know, she did all right, I think. As you said, the static shots were done pretty well. As you said, I do understand what you mean by the running. I suppose appearance-wise, I still like it. I think it still works for me. I think it still gives off that effect that the original one did very well. I must say I disagree. I like the new hypnosis, the sort of green, sort of circular eyes that come out of Lee Sen-Chang. I think that's done very well, and it's actually what I found most impressive is there's a shot where you sort of obviously it's like a very mid like close up of it, and then you can still see it hypnotized. Like there's like a shot of him on his side, sort of like a wider shot of him with that girl he's sort of hypnotizing, and you can still kind of see it, which I quite like. There's a good attention to detail. The gun effects are done very well, as well as the dragon at the very end. That's really cool. And if for some reason I don't know why watching this version, London feels just that bit more grander, I suppose, than it had done before. I think they might have. I think there was something done a little bit there on that side, and I'd say like this is probably the one. I don't know. I wasn't quite expecting this one to get the updated special effects, but I'm glad it has, and the ones and the changes they made, I like. And I don't know. I think I'll probably always switch back and forth. Depends what kind of mood I'm in, really. Like which version, and I think that's. I think it's probably, I mean, dare I say it, the best one they've ever done, or the box set so far. Is the one that I think has it's not so much as I feel like drastically changed, but very much is an update and a very much just an alternate glance, and doesn't feel like it. Because with Legopolis, that felt like for Tom's regeneration, that felt like it felt more of an alternative, I suppose, particularly with the actual regeneration scene. Whereas this is it's kind of that optional kind of thing. You always have the original, but it's not too much. I suppose it doesn't drastically change or it harm the story in any way. I think it's done very gracefully and still stays true to the impact that the original version. I'm sure if David Maloney would be absolutely happy with this version of the story, is what I say. Yeah.
Yeah,
I think. Oh, sorry, Luke.
I was just going to say, for choosing which season 14 story to give updated special effects, because they're trying to make sure each Blu-ray release does get one, don't they? I think the only one that hasn't is season 26. But yeah, there's not much. It's all been done already. There's not much you can do. And in this season, I would almost say it's practically the same. But if there was one that did need it, or that not need it, but one that you could get away with it without it just being completely pointless, would be Talons, to be fair. Even though I do have my problems with it, I'm okay with it being done. I don't think they were like wasting choosing Talons when they could have done another one. I think all the other stories are fine as they are anyway. It's not like the budget's been wasted on something that it could have been used better on. It's just, for me personally, it didn't quite work out as well as it did, but I'm happy that it has worked out for other people, and I will watch it again at some point. But like I say, for the most times I go back to Talons, it probably will be the standard version.
I think with these special effects, for me, I feel like they're sort of in keeping. Like they don't enhance it enough to make it feel jarring. You know, like Castrovalva is like a prime example, like the updated Castrovalva, like it still feels very much of its time. And I believe when Chris Chapman said in an interview, if they were to do Invasion of the Dinosaurs, they wouldn't go down the CGI dinosaur route. They'd sort of keep it to like model work. So it still feels in keeping of the era, which I think's a real good approach to go for, really, with these sort of updated that. CGI.
Yeah, really. I think CGI dinosaurs would stand out too much. I think it would be nice if they could get like the same style as the Drashigs in what's it called?
Carnival of Monsters,
and get what Barry Letts originally envisioned these dinosaurs would be when he handed it off to that what's it called, external company. Yeah, we'll have to wait and see on that one.
Because that is rumoured, isn't it? Season 11 is one of the rumoured ones to be coming soon.
Yeah.
Which would be nice, because I would like a Pertwee one.
Yeah, another Pertwee one I thought maybe might be in the works is season 9, maybe?
I think those are the only two you could actually do, because like season 7 and 8 are pretty roping quality, and I rather them wait a little bit longer so, you know, as technology advances, we can get a better restoration. Like, they're not bad quality by any means. I just think that if we want to see them at their true best, then, you know, hold off on them, really.
Yeah.
And I was also thinking maybe they don't want to finish List Laden on Blu-ray like too soon, maybe, because after 11's come out, you just have 13, and then that's their entire tenure done.
I feel like 13 will be like one of the last ones to be released.
I don't want it to be, but it's probably true.
Yeah. But back to Talons. So what do we think of the story? I feel like, Luke, you need to spread your love of Talons, because the amount of times you've watched it is unholy, but it's, you know, it's a good story.
It's a meme at this point, isn't it? Talons.
It's a meme for you, yeah. 3 o'clock Talons time.
Yeah, it is. It's such a good story, and directing-wise, the atmosphere, the fog, everything comes down perfectly. You've got these marvelous supporting characters in Jago and Lightfoot, and actually, we were talking about double acts earlier, but Jago and Lightfoot wasn't the original double act. It's Jago and Casey for the first 3-4 episodes of this story. They're very much playing off each other, and then finally the two unite in episode 5. We get that Jago and Lightfoot moment where he's like abusing him, thinking he's the servant of the house. Like, come on, bring Lightfoot to me. And it's, I confound your insolence. I'm Lightfoot. It's these two wonderful, not quite over the top, but ever large than life. I'd say large than life characters, particularly Jago. And it makes sense because he's this theatre, he's this theatrical type. He's always putting on a show, always looking for, oh, I can make a fortune here, the lair of the demon, or whatever he says. And all these wonderful moments. It's got so many good lines. Sleepers for tortoises, all that wonderful stuff. And it's impossible it was made in Birmingham. Just so many great moments. Leela is at her best here. She's chasing down Weng-Chiang, trying to put an end to Weng-Chiang, Magnus Greel, same thing. She's very much trying to put an end to him. She takes her own initiative with that. She substitutes herself for one of the girls, and sort of has quite a bit of time away from the Doctor there. And just so many wonderful moments all coming together for that wonderful concluding face-off, which might be a little bit awkward. Just having a fisticuffs fight at the end of a story. It's not quite right for Tom Baker, but I can forgive it. I still love the story overall, and I think it's lashings of great lines, great characters, a wonderful set of villains. Even you've got this group of them who work really well, and Magnus Greel is really sadistic, really evil, and I like that Weng-Chiang sort of goes off from him at one point. He's failed him one too many times, so he just sends him away, but he doesn't kill him. He doesn't he knows that that'd be too easy, so instead he puts Casey up in the thing to sort of frame him for murder almost, and ruin his act, ruin this thing that really means a lot to Chang with his performances. And he goes on about how he was going to get to perform to the Queen. He does Magnus Greel. He doesn't just go on to kill Lee Sen. He gets his revenge in a much more almost personal way. And then obviously you've got that horrific little creature, the Peking homunculus,
Mr. Sin.
He is a really creepy thing, slowly advancing on Leela, and then next thing you know, knife in his neck, he's still just advancing along. And just so many wonderful creations in this story, so many wonderful costumes, sets, characters. It all comes together to create what is definitely in my top 5 Doctor Who stories of all time.
It is. Yeah, it is definitely Doctor Who Phantom of the Opera, isn't it, with Magnus Greel? With his, the set of Magnus Greel, the sort of layer. Brilliant set design with all sort of the potions and concoctions he's doing, the experiments on animals, with the money spider. It's just really good stuff, really. The location work stands out.
Yeah, it's this mixing pot of all these different, classic English literature, isn't it? You've got the obvious Sherlock Holmes stuff in there, Phantom of the Opera, like you say.
Jack the Ripper.
Yeah.
That's one thing I love about how it ties into sort of Jack the Ripper in a way, but Jolly Jack's returned.
Yeah,
I do like that.
Pygmalion as well, with Leela and the Doctor's relationship, and also Leela and Lightfoot's relationship a bit as well. Just so many,
especially when they're eating
put in the pot and stirred together to create this wonderful broth, or broth of oblivion. The Doctor says at one point in the story as well. Although this isn't quite that. This is a much better broth.
Yeah. Adam, what do you think of Talons?
Oh, it's certainly a strong one for me. In the batch, it's I don't know what I could kind of say that hasn't already been said. It's one of those six-parter that I definitely think doesn't lull. There's always a set piece or a piece of the puzzle or a bit of the story that flows very, very effectively, brilliantly. Robert Holmes, as you said, great dialogue, whether it comes with Jago, Casey, the Doctor, Lightfoot, Leela, Weng-Chiang, Magnus Grill. A superbly put together cast. It's got the creeps. It's definitely got the villain. Because also another thing was they had planned to use the Master potentially. The Master might have been Weng-Chiang, but obviously it was a new villain. So I found it quite interesting that they were going to go that route, and I'm glad they created a new villain because I think Michael Spice as Weng-Chiang / Magnus Grill is brilliant, and I think it's also his physical performance as well as the voice. He's got this very sort of old crotchety kind of you can tell that he's in a very weakened state, and he does that and he portrays that incredibly well, and of course very briefly, and I'm glad the character options would later do and others would later do that that obviously the unmasking of the, which is great prosthetic work, I must say. Like the sort of half stretched, half you can tell that he's very much he's been through the ringer of time and everything. Like he's been through some stuff, man. But there's history to his face.
Yeah, there's a wonderful backstory to like his whole character. That's like it's just there. It's just out of reach. They just say enough to tease you. And it's like it's very much that RTD thing in the new series where he talks about the Time War. It's all these big concepts, and the same thing is true here in Talon's Weng-Chiang, where you've got like the march on Reykjavik, and he had all these he had his own concentration camps and things. Like there's loads of just little throwaway lines that, if you pay attention to it, it really paints this gruesome picture of this character even more so than you get from his actions on screen.
And I would sort of add, like, despite obviously with Lee Seng-Chang there does come the controversy, but I'd say definitely as a character, like obviously he's very much Magnus Grill's right hand man. I definitely feel like Philip Hitchcock definitely has the best like right hand man. You have Peter Miles in Genesis, and then John Bennett as Lee Seng-Chang. By the end, like Gothin, Deadly Assassin, like really kind of right hand man that are just as powerful, if not could step up to the say power of the main villain. And what I like particularly here is, as I said, there's a bit of backstory to him. There's a fair bit of he has a story. He's come from a very traditional background. Yeah. So that's good. Anything else? No, I don't know if anything's particularly come to mind. Of course, it is the birth of Jago and Lightfoot, and obviously you could see why. Of course, their legacy continues because it downright should do. They're great pairing. Christopher and Trevor spark off each other brilliantly, and I do adore that scene right at the end. Where Trevor's sort of talking to Leela about tea, and she said, one lump should suffice. But then Leela's like, what if I want two?
Oh, no. One lump for Leela.
I feel like this is a really good story for Leela. Like, I feel like even when Leela's in the background, like Louise Jameson's constantly present as Leela, like from the little looks, the way she views the world. I feel like this is Leela at her finest because this is Leela seeing how her ancestors lived, and I feel like this is where we see how
girl's first time in the big city.
Yeah, and I feel like it just explores Leela more of a character, giving her something a little bit different to do, I guess. And I feel like it's a great exploration of Leela, especially when you've got Lightfoot and Leela having the food. But she's just like, oh, this is a good knife. You can see where her priorities lie, but I'm just gonna hack at this meat. No knife. Lightfoot picks up the plate. He's like, I'll just put it down.
Aren't you going to eat? Just going to eat. And then tucks in.
I like the moment where obviously Leela gets changed and the doctor, and then there is that I think that another sort of good moment is when the doctor sort of notices, like, you look wonderful, and is it just like, I'll happily take you out of that, and it's just like, and if you're very good, I'll buy you an orange.
Yeah.
I mean, it links back to Mask of Mandragora. Plenty of oranges there.
Yeah, the season's come full circle.
I mean, that's season 18, but here we go.
That's right.
Yeah, I feel like the direction as well is, especially in the first sort of fight scene, you know, David, when that one of the people gets thrown at the wall, you know, David Maloney sort of does a POV of it. Brilliantly done. And I feel like the atmosphere, as Luke said, with the fog, it just gives that rich sort of Victoriana feel to it. I just love it. It's a really good sort of atmosphere.
I got to give a shout out to, obviously we were speaking about him earlier, Dudley Simpson. He's doing the orchestra at the beginning, which is great.
I think what I like about is Dudley Simpson in this as well is when Tom goes after Greel in part 2. But you kind of get the little undertone of sort of Daisy, like the Victorian music of it. Like, that's a really nice little touch to make it feel more of its period, which is a really nice little musical cue, I guess, back to Victorian times.
Yeah, I will be honest, actually. I'm going to do the unthinkable and criticise Talons.
What? Talons being criticised? We'll get onto that in a minute with a controversy, because I feel like we've got to talk about the rat in the room in a minute.
The elephant gun in the room.
Well, the elephant gun, yeah.
Yeah, like that scene when the Doctor and Magnus are having like that face-off cat and mouse game in the theatre. Just it doesn't quite work for me. It feels very static. It feels very much like it's a scene that's stopping and starting. As I don't. Maybe it's like there's not enough music for it. Maybe it's just weirdly directed. I don't know. Just something about it doesn't quite work for me. It feels padded out.
It doesn't quite transition into each shot, I feel. I think that's what it is.
Yeah, that's the other. Yeah, that's
like 1 minute Grill's climbing a ladder, and next minute it's Grill's just running away. Like it doesn't. I don't feel like it's edited properly.
Yeah, I don't know why it's happening. There's another.
Yeah, I think that is the thing.
Like, I get Grill trying to stay out of sight, but yeah, something about it doesn't work for me. But yeah, doesn't take away from the overall story. It's a short moment, but yeah, it just, if I have to give one criticism to it, it will be that scene. Yeah, do we want to get on?
Yeah, I was just going to move on to because obviously Talons is quite renowned for it being looked back now in this current day and age as being sort of racist, and obviously in this day and age a story like this wouldn't be allowed in terms of what the content is, I guess, but of course this is a story set in Victorian London, and it is a drama piece, so I guess we've got to talk about, you know, the whole sort of Weng-Chiang feel to it. So Luke.
Yeah, I think that it's one of those things that sadly is constantly brought up. Now it's always being dug up by newspapers. Oh, it's Doctor Who's shocking secret. It was once racist, but it's not. It's just, well, it's not. It's secret. It's not trying to hide it. It's been selling it for quite a few times. Like, I think we had like the whole in recent times we had the Time team, was it? In Doctor Who magazine, they sort of like brought it up, and there was controversy then. And then later after that, when it came out on BritBox, it had controversy, and then so they added like a little title card at the start saying this is of its time, and then also in the booklet,
yeah,
the material might be seen as offensive. It's just, yeah, but I think for the story itself, like you were saying, it's a drama piece, it's set in this time. This is how people act. And the story itself isn't being racist, I don't think. I think the sympathies aren't necessarily with the characters, because they're obviously the villains. But when it comes to scenes like the, what's it called, Weng-Chiang saying, I understand we all look the same to you. he's not like, that's not written as a racist line. That is him mocking white people for being ignorant. I see it as. But obviously, the other problem there is that we have a bit of yellow face, which probably.
I think that's the main fault of the story. I think like that's where the whole problem lies for me.
Yeah, I think the other lines you could have got away with if you didn't have the yellow face in there as well.
I think my problem. It's not really a problem. I feel like it's just doing what Rosa did, but back in the 70s in a way. But it doesn't shy away from the way people viewed, that type of thing, really, because it doesn't. It gives a Victorian view of those cultures. And Rosa. Yeah, and I think that's why Rosa stands out, because it didn't sugarcoat that topic, and obviously Talons doesn't. It doesn't sugarcoat it in that sense, but then you've got Weng-Chiang, which kind of doesn't really work for its favour.
At the same time, the point of view of it, I think, whereas Rosa is very much told from the point of view of the black people of that time, and obviously Ryan getting involved with that, and I feel, whereas Talons, it's not about that. It's about the mystery and the murder of the girls and everything, and this all going on in the back. This is all going on in the background. It's window dressing. It's part of the period. It's part of set dressing. And so, because it's not necessarily taking either side on it, people automatically jump to it being racist.
Hmm.
Yeah, but yeah, it just does. It comes down to that casting, but it is what it is now. It's over 40 years old at this point. We can't go back and change it. We can learn from it going forwards, and also, there's just nothing that can be done about it now. Like, no, not many people who were working on it at the time are still around, sadly. In terms of the creative force, and so it's not like you can get an apology from them. And like I said earlier, it's not made to be racist. It's not like a racist product. It's just, unfortunately, there are some things that aren't acceptable now, are a bit, well, not that they were acceptable back then, but it just wasn't brought up as much. It was just seen as okay. But yeah, I think it's a interesting topic. It's certainly not the last time it's going to be brought up. In a year or two, maybe 3, we're going to have another whole Talons controversy with people raging about it. But it's happened now. It is one of the best Doctor Who stories. So I think that's the problem as well. It's such a great story that if it was a bad story and it had all this racist stuff in it, we would probably not care as much. But because it is a really solid story, you don't want it to be buried. You don't want it to be forgotten. You don't want it to be damned for some unfortunate things that were some choices that were made at the time. And so, yeah, I think it's unfair to sink the whole ship because of one crew member, I suppose.
So, Adam, what's your take on it?
I don't think there's a whole lot I could add that Luke hasn't said already, but obviously what it's trying to do wasn't intended to harm or offend anyone at all. And it was quite interesting because I went to the BFI screen. They had a bit of chat about it as well. I definitely feel like you shouldn't feel guilty, as I say, for still enjoying the story and everything that it represents. It's a tough one, and I suppose it, as I say, every now and again it does get brought back up because I know it was brought up, I think, with the BritBox thing, and I know on the booklet actually it is this content, I think it said may offend or something. Luke is our booklet connoisseur, because I do remember it had that at the bottom, I think.
Yeah, so at the bottom of the list of special features on top of a picture of Tom.
I think Chris Chapman mentioned that if they had more of a budget for this, they would have done a documentary discussing said topic, which I think would make for an interesting watch to see their stance on it, I guess. I think that it would. I guess in a way it would put the. I mean, it's wrong to say it would put the discussion to bed in a way, but I feel like it would be one way of closing that door on it. I don't know.
I feel like when you have things like that nowadays, like with movies, like you have these campaigns that are almost like to try and harm the movie to make sure that the message is understood, so that they will change for like future movies, or maybe even recast or something for the current movie if it's still in production, or TV series or whatever. But with this, it's almost like the fight, not that the fight's over, but what are you actually fighting for if you're complaining about it?
You know, like, it's 40 years old. You can't, like you said, you can't change it.
Why it's offensive and why people want to make a point about it. But it's like, you can't achieve anything now, sadly. It's like been and gone by 43 years now.
Yeah.
So I think, and I think the lesson has been learned not to do this again. You're not going to see it again in modern Who by any stretch of the imagination. And so, I mean, they're not going to wipe this story from the archives. They're not going to get rid of the Master Prince, hide it away. It's not like a Jimmy Savile situation where we're going to be removing the special features.
Blimey. I didn't expect to hear that on a Saturday night. I know it's a serious issue, but I didn't expect that to be brought up with Talons of Weng-Chiang. Sorry.
Well, you've got the two Doctors DVD, like they reprinted that to remove the Jim will fix it feature. They're not going to somehow re-edit Talons of Weng-Chiang to remove.
I don't think that would work if you re-edited it, to be honest. You're kind of missing like the main component of the story because it's about his show, really. So
just like poorly get an actual Chinese man 40 years on to play the role and then like awkwardly green screen him over.
I mean, Big Finish did do it with Ripper Song Series 6.
Yeah, that's true.
They did do that. I mean, I guess we could talk about Big Finish later because season 14's got quite a few sequels, prequels to it as well.
Yeah, that's true.
So I guess we should wrap Talons up. I feel like we've discussed all we can on Talons because it's a good story. So Luke, give us your rating. I think we know what it is.
Yeah, it's obviously a 2 out of 10.
2 out of 10.
Racism. Got to give it a 2. Can't like it. I'm not allowed. No, it is a 10.
Yeah, definitely a 10.
Just a masterpiece, and we have said there are some unfortunate elements going against it in a way, but it does. The quality of the story itself, to me, isn't affected by that. I understand if it is uncomfortable for some people, and so it's fair enough. But for me, it is still one of the best Doctor Who stories out there, and I don't think for liking it. I don't think anyone should feel guilty for liking it. You're not a racist if you like it, but there we go. But that was.
I think as well. We can't really comment on said issue, because we're not the sort of demographic what might be offended from it. We're not.
You mean?
Yeah, we're not that really. So we can't really comment on it. We can't say whether it is or not. So, Adam, what's your rating on Talons?
It was a 9 originally, but honestly, in my head, I'm thinking it's more a 10. In my head, it's Bob Holmes. I feel like just any fourth Doctor Bob Holmes is just going to get an absolutely easy pass, but he knocks it out again. It's the last hurrah, as they say, for Philip, Roger, and Rob. They go out on a high because the production's great. And bringing this story together, being inspired by different pieces of literature while adding its own sort of mix of unique kind of flavor with the sci-fi element. It's great, and I don't. It's weird to think. I do feel like the Tom Baker era afterwards does sort of reach its peaks with Horrified Rock City of Death, and I dare say add the new Sharda, the recent a few years ago Sharda rather, but in terms of this is just in a way it's strangely the last hurrah, even though there's a lot of more Fourth Doctor afterwards. I do kind of feel like this is a great one for Philip, Roger, and Rob to go out on.
Yeah, I think also, like you're saying, just a second ago, Horror of Fang Rock, that Talons and Robot's Death, almost like the holy trinity of Doctor Who stories. Like to have those three in a row, for me, like I will be honest, Horror is another 10 out of 10. Those three in a row, it's just this holy trinity for me. But yeah,
I'd actually add to that and say, like, I think from Deadly Assassin up to Horror of Fang Rock, I know Face of Evil for me sort of a 9, and Robots is a 9, but I still feel like that from there it's like a very strong run.
Yeah, definitely. And then Invisible Enemy comes along, but
I mean that's not K9's fault at all, but you know. For me, it's gonna be Full House again. 10 out of 10 for Talons. What a story! What a story!
10 out of 10
I feel
around.
10 out of 10 all around. I think for me, the Philip Hinchcliffe era is what cemented Tom as the iconic classic Doctor. You know, I feel like this is why Tom is arguably one of the definitive Doctors, if not the definitive Doctor in many people's eyes. You know, the Philip Hinchcliffe era, you know, definitely cemented Tom as the Doctor, and I feel that Philip Hinchcliffe probably had better control on Tom, I guess, before Graham Williams sort of couldn't handle the beast that is Tom Baker. You know,
I feel set wise as well, like we discussed it a little bit, how everything for the most part works very well. It's all lit very well. So like, after Philip goes, something just seems to go wrong and things start getting overlit. Like compare Gallifrey in Deadly Assassin to Invasion of Time. Just things start to feel a little cheaper, and it's not because the budget has gone down. I think it's because Philip, as a producer, was better at managing the budget.
I think as well, Philip knows atmosphere. I feel like season 15, you know, it did still have atmosphere in like Fang Rock and Image of Fendal, but I feel like it did sort of lose that richness what the Hinchcliffe era did have.
Yeah, and I think we can't blame Graham Williams for it entirely as well, because I think he was given this difficult position of being thrown into this role and being told, you've got to tone it down, you've got to make it more funny. No, that's too funny. Don't make it that funny. And just awkward things like that. I think he had a very hard time as a producer to prevent that. Lots of things went Philip Hinchcliffe's way as well as his talent. Graham Williams, a lot of things went against him. That didn't help.
I definitely also feel that Tom really, by the end of the Philip Hinchcliffe era, definitely felt a sense of ownership. Like, obviously from the beginning, I feel like there was very much a trust within Tom and Philip and the scripts and everything like that. But particularly, I definitely feel like from season 15 onwards, I definitely feel it's very much there's more of Tom's fingerprints on sort of certain elements of comedy and drama.
He's the oldest one by then. He's not oldest, and he's age-wise the one who's born earliest, but he was the one who'd been on the programme the longest by then.
Yeah, he's very much the old guard in it, really. I guess Doctor Who's Tom's baby, and I guess that he was very passionate. You know, that you look at interviews that if you know he'd go and meet fans, and if they like something, he'd make sure that he keeps putting it in. You know, so I feel like Tom was very receptive in that sense. You know, he wanted to make sure that the fans got something what they enjoyed.
Yeah, he sort of fought for the program in a way, I suppose.
Yeah, I think in a similar situation to what William Hartnell was in, to be fair, like when he was towards the end of the show, he was so many people around him had left, but he still felt like he was the heart of the show. He was trying to keep it all as it should be to him.
So I guess we move on to, our bit of a last little talk is special features, because we've got some new special features to talk about. We've got one big emotional highlight, which is our Sarah Jane, which I guess we'll talk about now. What a beautiful documentary. I think that I feel like the Blu-ray documentaries really shine because they kind of move away from the talking head format. And I feel like the way this documentary is charted is that it very much sort of chapters Elizabeth Sladen's life. That we go from Liverpool, we go to Manchester, we go to London, we sort of map Elizabeth Sladen's life And it's quite, and it's tastefully done. We've got Sadie Miller talking about her mom, which is always lovely, and sort of to know more about Liz's career after Doctor Who, and you sort of the tragedy of it, that she got typecast and then she had sort of renaissance with Russell, and it was great to have sort of Phil Collinson to talk about that whole revival of Elizabeth Sladen's sort of career, and let a whole new generation love Elizabeth Sladen, because we all love Sarah Jane, one of the best companions to many, the best companion. So Adam, what are your thoughts? Because it's quite a tough watch, especially for Tom. When you see Tom break down, that's when it gets a little bit sad.
It's an incredibly tough watch, and I love when it's you sort of see Sarah's car go around the different locations. I think that definitely adds something to the sort of talking heads style, as you say. The interviews are brilliant. There's very feel much. Obviously, they're sort of looking at the camera. There's this directness that you get. You very much with them and in the stories, and she obviously it paints a very honest, beautiful, elegant figure that is Elizabeth Sladen. It's great because seeing clips from her other work, actually, because I hadn't seen a lot of Elizabeth outside Sarah Jane Smith at times where she'd actually use her natural accent in some things like Z cars and stuff like that, and sort of what she had been in before. And then sort of from there, how she was then brought into this Doctor Who world, was sort of brought out of it, started doing the convention scene, and then obviously the Renaissance, as you said, with Russell T Davies, with Doctor Who and the Sarah Jane adventures is great. And Tom is phenomenal in this documentary. I love the moments where he does watch some scenes on an iPhone, and what got me the most was when he sort of rubs his finger around her cheek at the hand of when he was watching the hand of it was the hand of fear, and she sort of had his finger on her cheek, and I love that. And then all the stories that Tom was saying, and then right at the end where he breaks down, it's there was a true friendship, and Tom. I heard that Tom was genuinely feeling emotional during the day that he shot that bit for the documentary. You could tell that there's a very deep fondness that he has for Liz that obviously still carries on in his hearts. I say hearts because, of course, he is a Time Lord.
Definitely. No, I don't think you've seen it yet, Luke, have you? I don't think you've mentally prepared yourself for it just yet.
No, not quite. I would say I haven't had the time, but realistically, we've got all the time in the world. Yeah, just bouncing around from thing to thing. I haven't been quite in the mood to watch it yet, I guess. Not mentally prepared enough, but I'm definitely looking to it. And I think as well, I should have watched it in preparation for this because we had planned it all out. But with the world as it is, it's very easy to lose track of what day is which. And
that is very true.
Yeah, it sort of got caught off guard, I guess, and didn't quite end up with time to watch it in the end. But yeah, I think I definitely am looking forward to getting around to that one.
So we've got the Behind the Sofas, which have sort of become sort of the Blu-ray collection sort of bread and butter in a way. I feel like they're one of the highlights. It's always interesting to see what people they get to watch the episode. Obviously, we have the TARDIS Crew, what feature within that season. Obviously we get a sort of a companion from a different era. So what do you think of the Behind the Sofas on this set?
It's a shame about Janet, isn't it?
Janet's the highlight of the whole, really. Yeah.
Yeah, but Sophie and Peter Purvis were an interesting combination, and I quite like how we've got one from the very start of the classic run, then one from the very end of the classic run, meeting in the middle.
That's true.
They work quite well as a combination. It's interesting to seeing how for Sophie, she grew up watching Peter, not necessarily on Doctor Who, but on Blue Peter. And yeah, I think that they had an interesting dynamic there of where they were coming at it from. And I did like those two as well. And then having Tom, Liz, and Philip together, they're all very interesting. You get insights into what it was like at the time. But also, they are a good combination. They are good friends. They get along well. And I think that's what makes it all work quite well. And there's just loads of little funny moments. Like at one point, Louise and Philip are having a conversation, and then Tom just comes in and awkwardly kisses Louise on the shoulder.
Oh, is that? Oh God, yeah.
I think
It's
that's
such a random
unfair.
moment, but it's wonderful
one of
as
the-
well.
It's like one of the Key to Time commentaries where he's like, "I love you, Mary." Who said that? It's like one of those random Tom moments where it's just you just think, "Oh, it's just Tom, isn't it?" It's just silly old Tom.
Yeah, and there's like one point as well where he's like, "Who's the fellow in the scarf?" Oh yeah, no, I remember. Louise asks, "Do you remember any of this?" And he's like, "No, I don't. Who's the fellow in the scarf?"
I love. There was a moment in the Behind the Sofas. It's Mask Mandragora where the Doctor gets knocked out, and then Tom's like, "That bum still hurts even today."
Yeah, he's
Still trying to recover
still
from
got
the
all
pain.
his wits about him, hasn't he?
Yeah.
That's good. So what other special feature we've got? Who's Doctor Who Revisited? I haven't watched this yet, but obviously it's sort of interviewing the kids involved within the first Doctor Who documentary, isn't it?
Pretty much, yeah.
So Adam,
have you seen it, Luke?
No, I haven't yet.
Oh, God.
One, then?
Go on, Adam. Go on.
Right, I have to give my spoiler-free-ish views on Who's Doctor Who Revisited. It's funny because I had actually never seen the documentary before, Who's Doctor Who, because I know it was on the Talon's DVD special edition, but I don't know. I never got around to it, but I got around to it here, and it was very good. And then seeing Toby Haydock revisit it in such his charming Toby Haydock ways, and it does get quite emotional. Like he sort of revisited the sort of places that they filmed. They go to the school where they filmed like the school kids in that interview. They sort of bring them all together and have a good chat about it. They bring Philip Hinchcliffe in the thing as well. He's very insightful, as well as the producer, everything that brought it together. And it's quite heartwarming because there's some people like within these are like it's a corner of Doctor Who that's supposed it's kind of the unsung heroes kind of thing about these people who sort of were part of the very first making of Doctor Who documentary. It's the first of its kind of thing, and there's very much this sort of heartfelt, respectful kind of love letter to it, and it's great. And of course, if you see Toby Haydock's stuff before, he's naturally charismatic and fantastic on screen, so you're in for a real treat there, and it's fun. I definitely recommend probably going back to the documentary and then watching that straight after, because you have a good time.
I don't think I've watched the original documentary either, to be honest. Like,
have you, Ben?
Yes, I have, because it started with like the Web Planet, and that's really cool. We've seen a bit of Heart. I mean, actually, it's quite nice to have Hartnell more on Blu-ray, because obviously we've got 3 Doctors on Blu-ray.
Yeah,
so it's nice to have a bit more Hartnell on Blu-ray.
Yeah.
We've got the Matthew Sweet Philip Hinchcliffe interview as well. Matthew Sweet, I always feel, gives a good rounded interview, especially the Tom Baker season 12 one. I feel like Matthew Sweet brings out a different side to Tom compared to most interviews you see Tom in. So how did we find the Philip Hinchcliffe one? Have we seen that one, or have we not seen it?
Have you seen it, Luke?
No, I haven't.
Oh, have you seen it, Ben?
No, I haven't. I've just been waffling. No. I've just been trying to concentrate on the stories. I haven't delved into it too much. I've watched the Sarah Jane one.
I've
seen it.
And then the Behind the Sofas afterwards, and that's sadly as far as I got.
Oh, right. Again, very good.
Take it away.
Philip is very interesting. Stuff you've heard before, mixed with kind of stuff you would sort of other sort of deep cuts into it. I don't know. I think this is if you enjoyed the previous Matthew Sweet one, you'll definitely enjoy this. And Philip is very insightful, still very knowledgeable, and still very much remembers. And really, sort of, I found it quite inspiring. He sort of started up very young as a creative and as a producer. It sort of reminds me of now, because he talked about his university days, and I'm a university student, so it's quite to see how his career really was, how it sort of paved the way from sort of start to finish. But obviously, it is mainly Doctor Who. because I know he did a Target. That was it. That's what he did after Doctor Who, like this police drama, is what he went on to produce after the Tunnels of Weng-Chiang. So it's talking about his journey into the industry, and that's always very insightful. And Philip is fantastic. Like I feel like if any of us were to like get a conversation Philip is to give, you'd have a very insightful, very inspiring kind of conversation with him. He is that kind of person, because I had heard like he was grumpy, I suppose, when you meet him at conventions, but then from now he does seem like genuinely like a nice bloke. He won't be. It's not like he's like the most warmest, most bouncy, but bubbly person, say like a Katie Manning encounter at a convention, but still a very pleasant. Seems like a very pleasant man to meet.
Have you met him then?
Yeah, I've met Philip. I met Philip at Phantom back in 2016.
How did you find him?
To be fair, he was actually really interesting, because I asked him what was the most challenging episode to produce.
Oh.
And he said the Ark in Space, because that was his first one, and obviously trying to get to grips with the show was a challenge. So for him, the Ark in Space was probably the most difficult to produce. So it was quite interesting for him talking about that, and he was quite shocked to see so many sort of young people there. It was like, what, you watch this, this tatty show? It was like, yeah, I love what you did with the show. It's arguably the golden era of the show, if not one of the definitive eras of the show. The 70s is my favorite era of the show. So I love it. So it was great him talking about sort of love for the classics as well. So that was a really nice little talk I had with him.
I think, and sadly, not so much sadly for him, sadly for all the others, he's the last surviving producer of the classic series. Derek Sherwin sadly passed away. I think that's a few years ago now, something, to be fair. But
yeah.
I was just saying, I was thinking back to a line from The Green Death where Stephen says, "Oh dear me, you must think us woefully ill-equipped, because me and you haven't watched watched Sarah Jane, but we haven't watched many special features compared to you, Adam."
I mean, together we've probably seen them
more as well.
Sorry?
There's a few more like little bits and pieces I have seen, but
I saw the nationwide thing on Face of Evil.
I think put it on Deadly Assassin.
Is it Deadly Assassin? I saw that with Tom and Louise, which was quite fun to watch, because Tom's always in character. So that was quite a fun little segment of 70s TV. But to save embarrassment, Adam, just want to talk about the remaining special features, so me and Luke don't look terrible.
Oh man. What's funny is I like the sort of other archive treats, like they put the Pescatons on the Mask of Mandragora disc, which I think it's all right. I don't know. It's kind of Big Finish before Big Finish was even a twinkle in Jason Hay Gallery or Nicholas Briggs's eyes, I suppose. And for what it's worth, it's not too bad. There's also Exploration Earth, which was another sort of one. It was sort of more educational, sort of based kind of.
Yeah, they were based for BBC School Radio. I think that's what they were based off for that.
Yes.
Isn't Pescatons the cast are literally just the Dr. Sarah and the Pescatons?
Pretty much, yes. And it's the similar with Exploration Earth. It's Dr. Sarah and I forgot the villain's name, but there was another voice in it as well.
Yeah.
I mean, you've got, just mentioning it actually, you've got quite a few ethereal voices in season 14, because I remember Exploration Earth having sort of this godlike voice, Mask of Mandragora. You've got quite a few ethereal voices actually. Even Mask of Mandragora, the music's kind of got that ethereal vibe to it, which I quite like.
And there's Victor Pemberton's next Doctor. It's like he did Fury from the Deep, but hasn't done anything since. But then he's done the Pescatons. But yeah, I think this is only two like stuff he's ever done for Doctor Who, which is quite interesting, I suppose. I've listened to the new commentaries of Tom and Matthew Sweet, and as you're saying, like the In Conversation brings out a different side to him, and they're like fun because Tom's just happy to kind of be there watching and reminiscing on. It's sort of like what you get from behind the sofas, but just with an audio commentary, because it's partly done with the Face of Evil and Talons. Like they watch, like I think 1 and 3 of Face of Evil, and then 1, 4, and 6 for Talons, which is quite odd, but still cool. And I think I like that because it's Tom. I think obviously Tom and Matthew. I think it's because it's the two, and it's not like an overcrowded commentary. Obviously, it's just like two mates watching a bit of Doctor Who, and it's kind of a bit all banter. And what I haven't done with because on season 18 they've done the Leisure Hive.
Oh,
and
I've watched that.
John...
That is really good. That is really good, actually. That is a good commentary because Matthew Sweet brings up sort of Tom looking ill, and Tom sort of discusses that and kind of discusses Tom and Lala in a bit more in depth, which is quite. It's always interesting to know what happens between those two. So it's quite nice to get a bit more light on that.
I think they're not like full commentaries for the whole story, though, are they? They like pick individual episodes to go through.
They do, yeah. I think they pick like half. I think it's sort of half of Face of Evil and half of Talons.
Yeah, I think I want. And also, they cut them down for the behind the sofas, don't they? They give them cut down versions.
Yeah.
An extended highlight reel, I guess.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah,
I can't. What else is on? I was just like, there's those the orange commentaries. Anything else?
You've got Miss Deep Roy.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, I enjoyed that. It's like a 50-minute kind of thing. That's very good. I've seen some stuff from the DVDs which I hadn't seen before. That's good. Oh, so on the final disc, there's an extended so Tom, I think Philip Hinchcliffe went around Tom Baker's house to record the making of for Talons, and I think it's basically that interview from the documentary with some maybe bits of stuff that maybe was cut from the documentary that is sort of an extended version of it, which on the final disc, that was really cool.
Stuff that's not quite relevant to Talons itself, maybe, but stuff that's still very interesting.
Oh yeah, pretty much. Yeah. I mean, there's Tom Baker on a game show, which is always fun, and Call My Bluff, which I thought when I read the special features was a new thing, but then it was like, it was a game show back in the 70s that Tom Baker guest on around the time of the season. I've thoroughly enjoyed going through season 14 with stuff I hadn't seen before. In a way, it, as you said, it does feel like watching that season with a new pair of eyes, even though you've seen these stories countless times because they go down as the favourites, really. So, yeah, it's been a wonderful ride, and there's probably still some stuff I'll go back to even now.
I suppose to wrap up season 14, I mean, I guess it's a bit of a challenge, and I guess I'll answer the rest of the chat in a minute. How would you describe season 14 in 2 words? So I'll let you have a little think. For me, I would describe season 14 as quintessential viewing. I think that's how I would describe it.
Bloody magnificent. That'll do.
I think that's fair.
My 2 are O'Corks.
I mean that wins it. That definitely wins it. So I'll just have a quick. I feel like just going back to special features quickly. I feel like it's a bit of a shame that Jago and Lightfoot didn't get their own little documentary. Really.
Yeah, they should. Like, especially like a tribute to Trevor Baxter would have been nice.
I think that would have been rather cool because obviously Jago and Lightfoot have had such a life on audio now, and it feels a shame not to cover that. I feel like it would have been great to talk about the What If TV series and then sort of cover the Big Finish stuff. Really, I feel like it's kind of a missed a trick, really, because it was a really good Big Finish spin-off.
Like they haven't even got Christopher Benjamin on for anything, let alone that.
I was hoping he'd be on Behind the Sofa, but he's not on them, which is a bit of a shame.
Yeah, so like imagine just like a special, like they keep him off for most of it, and then you got Tom, Louise, and Philip sitting there, and just you hear like Christopher Benjamin walk in, you go like, oh, hello. And then they
That'd be like the
Nicholas.
Nicholas Courtney thing, wouldn't it? When you just see Tom at the window just going, "Hello there." Yeah, it'd be like that. That'd be pretty cool. So I'm just going to quickly look on the chat, see if we've got any questions, and then I'll wrap this up. So,
Doctor Who fan 2004 horror asks, do you think season 7 could be the next collection box set John Pertwee first season?
I doubt it because of restoration.
Yeah.
I mean, Spearhead, that's ready to go, and I'm fully expecting Pertwee to be in the bathtub on the disc art. You know, if the Green Death can have, cleaning Pertwee, then we can have shower Pertwee for Spearhead.
I've got a question for you, Ben, spiraling off that.
I'll go on.
Who would you put on the behind the sofas for season 7? Because do you know, I had an idea. I don't know if this would ever happen. I'd love Capaldi and Katie Manning.
I would quite like to see Daisy Ashford. Obviously Caroline Johns.
Oh yeah.
Maybe have Jeffrey Beavers on there as well. With Katie Manning, Daisy Ashford. I feel like that would be quite nice to watch. Caroline, Caroline John's husband and daughter watching that. I feel like that'd be quite nice to have those two on there. But
John
season 7
as well.
John Levine, John Levine would be a good one. I feel like quite a lot. But season 7, as much as I want it, because it's probably my second favorite season of Classic Who, and arguably of all time. I want it on the shelf, but I want it to be restored at the best quality that they can. Spearhead, it's ready to go. I feel like Inferno is when you're going to struggle with the restoration. I feel like the special edition restoration's brilliant. So I feel like there is hope. There is hope for it to be restored. But I guess it would be a little bit jarring when you go from Spearhead to Silurians in terms of quality. But I guess that's with.
They need to take. That's going to take some more time, isn't it? Sadly, just because the quality of those, and as well because a lot of them were black and white, weren't they? And so the color upgrade sort of loses a bit of quality when they have to dots. Map it correctly.
Yeah.
Sometimes, it's a shame that and season 8 probably happens, but it would be best not to rush those. However good those stories are, we still at least already have the stories. We're just gonna have to be patient to get that Blu-ray set. And what more can they do for Spearhead from Space extras wise? They've done so many.
I don't know
releases now.
I feel like it's got more than Sharda.
I guess at least we're gonna have the
Spearhead.
You're probably right.
Yeah, we're gonna have the DVD ones brought onto Blu-ray now, because the Blu-ray for Spearhead from Space doesn't have the same special features, so they're sort of spread out.
It'll be interesting whether they keep the original Blu-ray special features on there. Like the tribute to John Pertwee and Caroline John, or whether they keep them exclusive to the original Blu-ray release. It'd be interesting to see what they do.
I would hope they keep them on. I would hope they bring them over, because I feel like the whole point of this collection box set is meant to be it's the ultimate collection. It's everything in one place.
Yeah, it is a definitive archive of the resources of the
everything except a fix with Sontarans.
I mean, that's going to be lost in time, to quote a DVD box set right there.
Imagine being the guy sat there upgrading the Blu-ray quality.
Oh no!
Yeah.
Gosh. So what other questions we've got before we say goodnight? Hello everyone. I just want to say thank you to everyone who's joined and has seen us ramble about season 14. What else we got? Were there any others along with Pescatons and Exploration Earth? I think Genesis of Daleks was part of that trilogy, I guess, because that was released on vinyl as well, I think.
Yeah.
I don't think it's on this box set, Genesis. But I don't think the audio version's on the season 12 either.
I think it is.
Oh, is Or is it?
I could be mistaken, but I think it is. Could be mistaken.
I think
Maybe.
is it like a reconstruct. I'm not sure.
Or is it the omnibus I'm getting mixed up with?
I know that there's the omnibus on there, but I don't know about because I got the audio version through the time capsule of Genesis.
Yeah, that is true.
Rob
would you?
here asks, would you want them to recolor episode 1 of Invasion of the Dinosaurs for the season 11 box set whenever it's made?
Yes, because I rewatched that recently, and yeah, the chromo dots don't quite work in its favor. Like there are moments where Pertwee's jacket, it kind of it hasn't quite transferred that well, if I'm honest.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things actually, because the reason why the color episode is on the special features is because the black and white versions are higher quality, so that's why it's the default option. I've only just found that out, which I found quite fascinating because I'm weird.
Yeah, I was always like weirded out by that. To be fair, I always like have that thing if I go on it, press play. Oh shit, black and white. Quickly back out of that, go special features, black color, and then go back to it.
Mm.
So that I feel like with these Blu-rays, you've got to do the best, and I feel like the Blu-ray releases are in safe hands because a lot of love and care goes into them. So I feel like they want the best for them, really.
Yeah, but I guess it also is that thing of how, with like the technology we have, how well can they do with that? Sadly, I think there are limits to that.
And I guess it's down to the budget of the box set, I guess, because obviously the Pertwee era is quite well documented on the DVDs. Then I guess it gives them more budget to restore or, do the updated special effects, because I feel like season 11 is quite a good contender for updated special effects, whether it be dinosaurs or Planet of the Spiders.
It would be interesting if we got like a box set with 2 updated special effects. I doubt the budget would stretch that far, but it would be I also feel like with Planet of the Spiders, though, there's some scenes that just cannot be helped, like the green screen effects of the alien planet. You're going to be able to tell that it's just someone standing against green screen, whatever they do to it, sadly.
I feel like as well with the Blu-rays, they've kind of got rid of all the fringing of the green screen as well, but they've kind of restored that.
Yeah, that's true.
But they've kind of made it less.
Yeah. Depends on the person's hair, doesn't it?
Yeah, that is true, actually.
That's where
Castrovalva, they've done a good job with it.
Yeah.
Crazy Jane asks, have you checked out any of the PDFs on any of the Blu-ray releases?
I must do that at some point because I know
there's quite a lot, isn't there?
Yeah.
I feel like,
that's like the bulk of what the 8th bonus disc is, isn't it?
Pretty much, yeah. Pretty much.
When you look at the special features list, there's not that much on there. Most of, I think, the disc space is taken up by the PDF stuff.
Sadly, I can't get any access to any of the PDF stuff because my laptop doesn't have a disc thing, so I can't really check it out, which is a bit of a shame. Because
I feel like a lot of it is already out there on the internet as well. But not,
yeah, that is true. Like I think like the DVDs had like the old Doctor Who annuals on there as well. They had like the PDFs would be the old annuals, which was quite a nice little touch for them.
Yeah.
So I think we're pretty much wrapping up now. I think.
Yeah. Rob McClory said, "I think removing the yellow reflections off the Whomobile would be good, but we're all going to know it's still in the studio." Yeah, that's true.
That is. Unless do new model shots of it, that'd be quite cool.
Oh, that'd be interesting.
Yeah, just re-edit part 2, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah.
Because part 2 is just the chase, but the Pertwee equivalent, really.
Yeah.
I think that concludes the stream. So thank you for my lovely panelist for joining, talking all things season 14.
Thank you for inviting us. It's been a pleasure.
No, it's been good to do a live stream and talk all things Doctor Who. And what a season to talk about. Season 14, one of Tom Baker's best. Would you say, where is it on your Tom? All right, this is sort of the last question, I guess. Where is it on your sort of Tom Baker season sort of sort of list. Luke?
I would say top.
Oh, you say number
I'll go
one.
even further and probably say top of all time.
Oh,
It's very close, but it really is a very solid run of stories. And now that on this rewatch, I've appreciated Hand of Fear even more. I would rank it very highly, and probably say, certainly best Tom Baker, maybe best overall. But yeah, I think it does beat out season 13 for that spot.
I feel like I know your answer, Adam. I feel like I know what it's going to be.
I feel like we've got a reversal here.
It's fighting with season 13. It very much is. The fact that they're very much it's not just it very much one after the other, like 13 to 14. Like I feel I'm more attached to 13 just because the Dr. Sarah dynamic is sort of thorough in like it's the comfort food for me is that dynamic and everything. And Pyramids is my favorite of all time, really. And Brain and Morbius is great and everything. But honestly, like I could probably maybe like any day of the week, I'd probably say 13 or 14. But it's such a hard choice for me, and like two of the best seasons of all time. Because by the point of like even 13, like Philip, Tom, they're very much at the top of they're at the top of their height of their powers, really. Very much at the peak of who is that. It's 14 though. It's so high up. It's very much high up for me. If I had the opportunity for 13 and 14 to hold hands, then honestly, that's where it's to be.
We can't do that, Adam. Social distancing. We can't hold hands right now.
When they come out with the season 13 box sets, you have to keep them very far apart on the shelf.
2 meters apart on the shelf. 2 meters apart on the shelf.
Oh, it's not. They're far from 2 meters. I'm looking at them. I'm looking at them right now. Oh, good God. Yeah. Just I can't wait. I'm just kind of blessed. We have 2 of Hinchcliffe's series already done. Like all we need is 13. But I'm patient. I suppose I can wait.
I wonder what they'll do for the CGI on that one.
Pyramids. I think Pyramids. They could do a lot with Pyramids.
Yeah.
Maybe. Yeah, possibly.
It's another one where it's all so solid though.
Or the Scarison. That'd be quite nice to see updated.
Yeah.
Scarison would be pretty cool. For me, season 14, I'd probably say, I don't know, because I love season 12. Season 12 is a really good season as well. Oh, I don't know. Because I love Sontaran Experiment, and Revenge of Cybermen isn't that bad.
I don't think it's that bad, actually. I think it's better. I think it's one of the things that, with the updated special effects, I felt it sort of slightly improved on that viewing.
I mean, little tease, we might be doing season 12 soon, so stay tuned for that. Do you know what? In celebration of season 14, I'm going to go season 14.
Hey.
Why not? Season 14 can be number 1 for now, until that changes as soon as I leave the live stream and my mind changes instantly. Because we can never have an opinion what stays the same, really. So that concludes this stream. So thank you very much, everyone, for watching. I hope you're all well and you stay safe. And have a lovely rest of the evening. And yeah, thank you very much for joining us. And we shall see you next time, hopefully for season 12, which will be coming in the near future.
I hope you have all enjoyed as much as we have.
Oh, we've had a lot of fun just rambling about Doctor Who, because who doesn't love, 3 people talking all things Doctor Who. So thank you very much, everyone, and good night, and goodbye.
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 Ta-ta.
Bye-bye.